Control provider of the Dallas Cowboys, blockchain.com. Blockchain.com. Make your crypto play today. And by DallasCowboys.com. Keep track of the boys with daily podcasts and up-to-the-minute blogging at DallasCowboys.com and on the official Dallas Cowboys app.
Now, here's Eric Chiofalo and Bryan Broaddus.
Broaddus, we should have known last week. We should have known last week when there was even a chance that the Packers were going to be the opponent for the Cowboys in the playoffs, that the football gods were going to make that align beautifully like the stars in the sky. This is the 9th time they've met in the playoffs, and it's a 4-4 record here. So history says it's a coin flip today. Vegas says otherwise. It's over a touchdown favorite. Broaddus, you are a Super Bowl champion as a scout with the Green Bay Packers. You've been a part of a ton of these matchups over the years as a fan and directly involved as a personnel man. But this is fun. fun. This is exactly what we want here. At home, no Aaron Rodgers, the Packers, the Cowboys. It's historical. It's beautiful. Welcome to the freaking playoffs, man. This is awesome.
Well, I appreciate that. And welcome to the playoffs as well. And welcome to everybody out there listening to us. Yeah. First game I ever went to in my life, 1968, Cotton Bowl, Green Bay Packers, preseason game. So 5 years old. I have a history with this rivalry and worked on both sides of the rivalry. It's very intense. A lot of respect between the two organizations. You know, when you go back and you look at, you talk to players, former Packer players back in the day, the Bart Starrs and the Jerry Kramers and Dave Robinsons and guys like that, and they will tell you the stories about how it was to face a lot of these gentlemen whose names are on the side of this stadium here, the Ring of Honor type, players and stuff. And so, yeah, it's a great rivalry. It's really a rivalry built on great players, but a great deal of respect between the two organizations.
Yep, it'll be the 9th time that the Cowboys and the Packers have met in the playoffs, which ties Green Bay with San Francisco for the most common Cowboys playoff opponent of all time. So this is familiar territory, but this is a different version of the Packers than what we're used to over the last decade or so, 2015, 2017, playoff matchups, whatever it is. And all of a sudden now it is a new-look Packers team. But they for the last half of the year, especially offensively, this has been a dang good football team. It's not Favre, it's not Rodgers, but there's a new young quarterback in town, and I'm curious your thoughts on him. And I can't wait to just figure it out, because you gave a great story there in the crosstalk about Brett Favre, and it really just highlights his personality.
Sure,
goofy, doesn't matter what the moment is, high leverage, late game, and he's cracking jokes with his coach.
Right.
We know about the big personality of Aaron Rodgers. I'm curious, who is Jordan Love here? And so when we go behind enemy lines with Wayne Larrivee, Packers play-by-play voice, or we welcome in Kevin Burkhardt, who will be on the telecast today with Fox as basically the TV voice of the Cowboys. Fox and Olsen and Burkhardt have had so many Cowboys games this year. But I'm curious, these guys that have been up close and personal with Jordan Love, what do they get from him? Because I think his performance today, his first playoff game in an atmosphere like this versus a defense like this, I think is going to go a long way in determining just how this game goes.
Yeah, you're absolutely right about this, and it's kind of been the Packer way. If you go all the way back to 1992 when Ron Wolf made the deal, Mike Holmgren made the deal to go get Brett Favre, and then it was we started Don Majkowski. It lasted 2 games. The next thing you know, Brett Favre is into the game, and then it's 260 something consecutive games without missing a start, and then all of a sudden Aaron Rodgers gets drafted. Ted Thompson, I used to work with in Green Bay, actually started the very same day in Green Bay with him. He drafts Aaron Rodgers out of Cal. He's sitting down there, his defensive guy goes away in the draft. He's like, man, I got to take this quarterback. I got a veteran quarterback, but here they go get Aaron Rodgers. Same thing happens, really with Rodgers, kind of thinking about a quarterback that might be a little bit of age. Brian Gutekunst, now the general manager, makes the move. He goes and gets a quarterback when he really didn't need a quarterback. The Packers have just hit on these quarterbacks along the way, and especially the last 2 times out. Aaron Rodgers didn't play initially. He sat out and he watched some things and kind of grew along the way. And then the same thing with Jordan Love here. So they've got an idea of what they need as a quarterback. And history might tell you, though, this, and they hope that history will tell them this, but maybe Jordan Love will have the type of career that Aaron Rodgers and Brett Favre had before him. But that's a heck of a run the Packers have been on right now. This kid looks like real deal. He really does when you watch him play.
Okay, 877-881-1053. Want to know what's your confidence meter? What's your prediction here on the fan text? And I want to know what insane people we have out there Toloing right now on the Odyssey app, or maybe they got it dialed up on the FM in the vehicle out in the parking lots right now. Like who is outdoorsing this thing from a tailgate standpoint? You get points for just going in your backyard and grilling outside, okay, because you're a super beast for doing that. But you take it to a whole other level. These folks that are in AT&T Stadium parking lots right now, firing up the George Foremans and just really appreciating every playoff second, despite the fact that it is blistering, painfully cold. I mean, painfully cold.
Well, the one thing that's funny, I learned this tailgating in Green Bay, is that you'll always find a way to have enough clothing on. You figure it out, but what you have to have is two guys, two gals, it doesn't matter, knocking the ice off the keg, and then one over there cooking. So you always need to worry about your outside beverages.
Sure.
Don't let those freeze up.
Yeah.
I've been in parking lots at Lambeau where Bloody Marys and stuff like that, I've seen those things freeze up. So, yeah, you have people that are responsible for the alcohol not freezing up and taking care of that. But then that one person that's special that can man the grill.
Looks like all the beers at Arrowhead Stadium last night in Kansas City were just slushy beers.
Slushy beers.
Little beer Slurpee.
Yeah, and that's what happened. Like I say, I remember days of going out in the parking lot there at Lambeau and watching people knock the ice off the kegs just to make sure that they had the proper flow. I guarantee you there are Cowboy fans outside right now that are doing the same thing to make sure that beer flow is improved.
How about this animal in the 469 on rooftops fixing commercial heaters, but listening to the Cowboys pregame show on the Odyssey app?
Yeah,
That's
I appreciate
incredible.
you. Be safe up there. Watch your step. I know you're probably tethered to your workstation there, but hopefully everything's good. And thanks for what you're doing for helping people survive this cold weather we're having right now.
2-1-4 Cowboys by 10, 37-27. 8-1-7, a little bit worried. Packers are a good enough team to capitalize on the Cowboys making mistakes today, and if that's going to be the case, for sure.
Yeah.
But there is a lot of opportunities for the Cowboys to take advantage of this Packers team. Where are those? Tell me the Cowboys' path to victory right now.
I'll tell you what, though, and it's really going to come down to, I feel like the Dallas offense can really put this Green Bay defense under a lot of pressure. It's going to really start if they're able to block Rashawn Gary up front. They're going to move. Joe Barry, the defensive coordinator for the Packers, he's going to try and find spots where he can rush Gary. And Gary's very, very talented. My gut feeling is that they're probably going to rush him over the top of Terrence Steele. I don't think they want to waste any reps rushing over the all-pro tackle Tyron Smith over there.
Mm-hmm.
So keep an eye on number 52 Gary and where he's moving around. Clark is another one. Kenny Clark, number 97, is another one that they're going to have to deal with. Those are the two best players, I think, on the defensive line. They've got a rookie guy, Lucas Van Ness, I think is a good player. You'll see him, number 90. He'll substitute in. But the Cowboys can take advantage. The Packers don't particularly play the run all that well. And last week we saw a little bit of traction of what Pollard was able to do running the football. Maybe they could get that going a little bit. But also they can match up on these linebackers. And when I'm talking about linebackers, especially inside. Quay Walker, though, I don't think covers particularly well. I think he's a good blitz guy, but I don't think he covers very well. We'll see if the Cowboys can scheme him to where he has to play in coverage a little bit, too. I think him and Campbell, the other linebacker, struggle in that coverage aspect. So anything to work the middle of the field, the safety play here is not very good for the Packers. There's some opportunities to attack this team in the middle of the field and maybe scheme some stuff to have to get guys in coverage situations that they're not comfortable with.
Okay, that's beautiful news. When you look at this Packers defense and you see, okay, they have a front four that can get some pressure on you.
Yes.
But otherwise, they don't stop the run well.
No.
The linebackers don't play in coverage well.
Right.
Outside of Jair Alexander, no one can name really anybody in their secondary that's worth a darn.
Right.
And Alexander's a little bit hobbled with the ankle rolling that he did in practice earlier this week that we will continue to get updates on throughout the show and figure out what his level of production could be today based on how healthy he is. But this is a Packers defense that can be taken advantage of.
Yes.
And so Dak Prescott, CeeDee Lamb, of course, that's a guarantee. Today's player profile coming up in a few minutes with Chris Arnold. It's with Jake Ferguson, the tight end. And I got a good feeling that Jake Ferguson could be a monster today. When you talk about the middle of the pass defense being a problem, the safeties, the linebackers, doesn't that spell Jake Ferguson? Let's party?
Yeah, absolutely. It spells Jake Ferguson. Anything going up the seams, anything going through the middle.
Dak's favorite, just 20 yards down the field.
They have had some struggles dealing with the teams that have run vertical routes on them when it comes to the middle of the field. I could see Dallas getting into some 12 personnel stuff today, too. Maybe not, I know we've talked about Schoonmaker, but maybe it's Hendershot. So then you Ferguson, Hendershot. We'll see Schoonmaker if they get into some 13 personnel. But with those two, at least with Hendershot and Ferguson, you feel maybe a little bit better about some downfield stuff. And 12 personnel, you think, oh, well, maybe they can run out of that. Sure, run out of that, but also some play action out of that. Make these linebackers and safeties have to deal with some coverage.
Gosh, I love it. Cowboys Nation, come out early to the Miller Lite House, the pregame gathering destination on the West Plaza of the stadium. Miller Lite is the only beer of the Dallas Cowboys, and we invite all Cowboys fans to join us for a great tailgate event. Sample some great seltzer brands as well, like Vizzy Hard Seltzer, the official hard seltzer of the Cowboys. And once again, shout out to all the Cowboys fans that are going to be partying outside as they await the doors opening. That's always one of the fun things when you're out in the Miller Lite West Plaza, waiting, especially the folks doing the standing room only ticket, which I've been a part of that crew many a time, and you're just trying to get first to the glass. When that door opens, boom, you're beelining it right to your spot. And this is playoff time, so the intensity out there on the Miller Lite West Plaza today is going to be ramped up in a huge way, and I don't think the conditions or the elements is going to slow these guys down. So shout out to Cowboys fans. I hope it's the most rabid Cowboys fans ever coming into AT&T Stadium, ready to make it a living hell, putting Jordan Love and this Packer offense in a blender for 60 minutes.
Yeah, you're absolutely right about it. And we're in a whiteout situation too.
That's
so
right.
Hopefully the Cowboy fans
I came prepared.
have gone out and they've got their I see the towels in the seats, but they were encouraged to wear some type of white outfit. So hopefully the fans will be dressed and ready to go like that. There will be a lot of green in this stadium. This team, your opponent, travels very well. These fans love coming to Dallas. They love being a part of it. They've had some great success. Last Super Bowl they won was in this stadium, so very well comfortable with that.
Is it true what they say about the Packers fans? And I'm not worried about the Packers fans being loud. I think Cowboys fans are going to show up in a ridiculous way today.
Yeah.
They understand. I think Cowboys fans, from my understanding, they're starting to take this consecutive home win streak.
Yes,
they're starting to take some real pride.
They are, and you. That's the whole idea right now, is that in these playoff games. I mean, we've seen usually, and I'm from Dallas, Texas, as you are as well, Eric. I could say this. We could be some front runners sometimes. When things are going good, we can front runner this. When it goes bad, well, maybe we're not going to show up, or maybe we're not going to cheer. No, Cowboy fans have really invested in this. They've taken a lot of pride that this team has won 16 straight home games. And let me tell you what, they played a big part in a lot of it. They really have. And they've altered communication for opponents. They've given the Cowboys encouragement when they've needed to on defense to get stops. That Seattle game was a great example of that. 3 fourth-down stops in that game. Unreal. And the crowd was a huge part of that. One of the loudest playoff crowds I ever remember was a game played here against Detroit, where the Cowboys were able to come away with a victory. So this fan base is super capable of being able to get this job done today.
Yeah, it's time to crank it up in a huge way. Looking forward to kickoff. It's going to be fantastic. And I am curious, though, as much as you know about the Packers.
Yeah.
Is it true about with the road Packers fans, they have such hubris about their own brats in Wisconsin that they do the pocket brat?
They bring their own.
They do the pocket brat, right? They'll come right into your own house and they'll say, I appreciate what you cooked for me.
Right.
I got my pocket brat. I'm good here.
Yeah, absolutely. Insane. Yeah, you get that thing going. You take it right off the smoke or the grill, wrap it up, just put it in your pocket and then try and get through the metal detector outside. If they make you eat it in line, hey, so be it. You got to eat it. But, you're going to try and get your brat into the stadium.
Yeah, you're going to house that thing one way or another. Hopefully you make it indoors with it. But if not, Legends Hospitality's got you covered, Packers fans. Okay? I'm just saying, Packers fans, you're going to be in a good place from a culinary standpoint at AT&T Stadium. Shout out to the 903. He's been smoking a 10-pound brisquito since 8 o'clock last night.
There you go.
Right when the temperature started to really crash down on him, he said,
the wind was picking
that's
up.
my cue to go dial up the brisket. What a stud.
Probably had to go with a little bit higher temps to make up for that. I'm sure that pit was feeling a little of that loss with that cool air on it.
That's right. All right, inside the comfy confines of the Brad Sham radio booth here at AT&T Stadium, the site of today's playoff matchup. Cowboys and Packers, very, very exciting. We'll take you up until kickoff, and in the meantime, let's get you the player profile with the tight end stud, Jake Ferguson, and we'll hear from Babe Laufenberg, all coming up next on the official pregame show of the Dallas Cowboys right here on 105.3 The Fan.
It's big, it's good, and it's only for Cowboys fans. It's the Cowboys Special from the Cowboys and Papa John.
Always feed your wild side responsibly. Be safe. We're saying this because we love you.
Just under 3 hours to playoff football. That's right. Welcome into the official pregame show of America's team. We're live at AT&T Stadium, and it's time to welcome in Babe Laufenberg into the conversation. Babe, happy playoffs, sir. How the heck are you?
I'm doing great, and so looking forward to this football game this afternoon.
Likewise, man. This is pretty special, and this is exactly what we should have all anticipated when we saw that the Packers were an option for the Cowboys' next opponent here as the playoffs got going, because this is the 9th time these two teams have met in the playoffs, and it's a 4-4, 500 situation there. It's a coin flip, says history, but not Vegas. Cowboys by over a touchdown here. Is that how you see this Packers team? There's definitely a talent discrepancy between the two of them.
Well, I think there's a talent discrepancy, but I think as much as anything, there is a youth discrepancy. And this Packers team is so young, starting with the quarterback. And I don't care that it's Jordan Love's 4th year in the league. It's his first year as a starter. You know, Brett Favre, his first year as a starter at Green Bay, they did not make the playoffs. Aaron Rodgers, his first year as a starter, did not make the playoffs. And remember, Rodgers sat for 3 years, just the way Jordan Love has sat for 3 years. So it's a little bit different when you go from that sideline to the field. You can watch all you want from the sideline. You can be 6-7 years in the league, but you get out there and everything speeds up.
Babe, I kind of compare this to the last. Okay, we talk about playoff football between these two teams. In 2016, when Rodgers, the veteran, with the starts, and then Dak, the rookie, making his start, it seems like to me it's kind of flipped. You know, I know that the Cowboys were the number 1 seed going through that year, but it just seems like to me, quarterback playoff experience, and maybe Houston, the kid proved us wrong yesterday, but generally playoff quarterback experience helps you this time of year.
Oh, I think any experience helps you for any time of the year. You know, you've been through whatever it is you've been through. Hey, that's true of life, right? Our jobs. Yeah. I'd like to think I'm a little better at doing my job today than I was when I started this thing 27 years ago. So, and every year I learn, just in my little world, every year I learn to do something different and better and all that good stuff. But yeah, the playoffs, it's a different animal for these guys. I think one thing that'll help Jordan Love a little bit, 2 weeks ago, this team, Green Bay, played in Minnesota and beat Minnesota. And that environment there is about as loud as it gets, as you guys know.
Kind of like a playoff game, yeah.
Oh, so
yeah,
they experienced that 2 weeks ago, just in terms of having to go through silent count and all the things that you have to go through when you're on the road in a dome stadium. And we know this place is going to be rocking, right? But again, this Love boy, every week, he seems to be getting a little bit better. I mean, he seems to be getting a little bit better every week. He will throw you one or two. The statistics don't show that, because since week 11, he's had 18 touchdowns and 1 interception. And don't get me wrong, he's playing great. But sure, Chicago dropped 2 flat-out interceptions that the Cowboys will not drop today. So the whole key is when he throws you one, you better catch it. And this team, the Cowboys, have shown that if you throw him one, they will catch it. And if you throw it to Deron Bland, not only will he catch it, he'll take it for a touchdown.
No, absolutely right about that. Babe, when you mentioned that when you talk about this, the Cowboys, though, offensively, in the last couple of weeks, like against Commanders, you ran the ball a little bit better. Green Bay, not a great run defense, but still Dallas, I mean, they have to try, right, today? You go for the balance, you say, you know what, man, this secondary for the Packers has given up some big plays. We're just going to go and attack it that way. Or if you're Dallas, is a run a wasted snap today, or could the run be a weapon today?
I think you'll run it just enough to keep them off balance.
Yeah.
Let's face it, the Cowboys were an average running team, but they're an outstanding passing team. So I don't think you come into a game like today and suddenly say, hey, we know we weren't great at this all year, but by God, we're going to show them we can run the ball. No, right. You come out, you get the ball to CD, you do all those things that got you to this point, and really got you to this point from week 6 on. I will say this. I don't think I've ever seen softer coverage than C.D. Lamb got last week against Washington.
Sure.
It was like a 7-on-7 game where they weren't allowed to get within 3 yards of him. I think it was 13 of 13, right? Targets and receptions.
Right.
And those are some of the easiest pitch and catches I've ever seen in an NFL game. But should be a little bit different today. But, yeah, to your point, Green Bay has not been great defensively. They're going to play a lot of shell coverage, meaning just trying to keep everything in front of them, not give up the big play, and we'll see how that works.
Babe Laufenberg with us here on The Fan. Back to Jordan Love. Do you feel like when you study him, do you see elements of Rodgers in Love's game?
Absolutely. And it's funny because I went back and I looked at Jordan Love, and I'd seen him before when he came out, but not a deep dive, but I went back and looked at all his Utah State tape where he played. Mm-hmm. Looks nothing like the guy that you see today. The Aaron Rodgers influence, he separates his hands when he's back in the pocket, which is a bit of a problem because, hey, Micah Parsons, DeMarcus Lawrence, they're not going to go for the sack. They're going for the strip. And you'll see those hands separate, and that's the time you kind of lose the ball. He had 9 fumbles this year. 9, that's a lot. By contrast, Dak had 4. But I think you can poke the ball out from him, but he throws off the back foot. He's tremendous arm, great touch. You can see he's reading things well. Kind of hard to fool him, even though he is this young quarterback, first-year starter. But a lot of things to be impressed by. But to your point, the guy at Utah State, he sat up, he stepped up, he had 2 hands on the ball, and then if you strip the numbers off him, you'd say, hey, is that Aaron Rodgers? It's like, no, it's Jordan Love, but he watched Aaron Rodgers for 3 years. I saw it with Zach Wilson, didn't you guys?
Yes.
I saw the Aaron Rodgers influence of just dangling the ball. I see Caleb Williams, if you watch him, I think he's got to tighten up his game before he gets to the NFL. He's got to get recoached, but tremendous talent. But, this Jordan Love, just very impressive talent-wise. I got to make one point quickly, too, and you brought it up, Brian, about Dak in his first playoff game in 2016. I'm listening all day yesterday. C.J. Stroud, we've never seen anything like it. We've never seen a rookie like this. I'm like, yeah, we have. 2016. Yeah. Dak Prescott led this team to 13-3 record. Would have been 14-2 if they wanted to beat Philadelphia in the last game of the season.
Sure.
He had 23 touchdowns, 4 interceptions. Now, we have seen it. Maybe you guys haven't seen it, but we've seen it. And it was Dak Prescott who did it.
Yeah, babe, speaking of Dak Prescott, how do you go about attacking? You mentioned the show coverage and stuff, and you mentioned about Lamb and how they kind of involved with him. But how would you say the best way for you? Would you say it is going to be? Is it going to be the tight end today? Because they struggle in the middle of the field. I'm watching them. I don't see linebackers play particularly well in coverage. I don't see safeties play particularly well in coverage. You see maybe that Mike gets in some 12 personnel stuff and tries to formation these guys into having to play some coverage?
Well, Jake Ferguson, as we know, he's really come on over these last 8-10 games. So he is a threat for you now down the middle of the field. C.D. Lamb made more yards out of the slot than any other receiver. So you can put him in the slot, have him hit the middle of the field. I think, and you guys may know this as I was driving in, Jair Alexander, have they made any declaration to whether the Green Bay Packers corner plays
I believe
today?
he is going to play. I believe he is going to play. Yeah.
So, he hurt his ankle in practice. I know, I'm sure you touched on it. But
the questionable ones they have is Watson, the wide receiver, and Dillon, the running back, were the ones that they're the most questionable.
Just from reading, I don't see Dillon playing, but Jair Alexander is a huge part of this. He injured his ankle in the Thursday practice. And what's funny is if you're going to travel him, which they have done, and travel him with CD, now all of a sudden you've worked a couple days on a certain game plan, right? And that game plan goes out the window on Friday, possibly. We'll see again how that ankle is. And even if he plays, he clearly can't be the same guy before he injured that ankle on Thursday. So that, to me, that's going to be a huge key to how Green Bay handles the Cowboys' passing game schematically. If you've got Jair Alexander and he's at somewhat top strength, it'll really help Green Bay. If he's not there, man, they're going to have a hard time holding up to the Cowboys' passing game.
How much have you thought about just the McCarthy storyline this week? Obviously, his former team. I feel like going to Lambeau last year, I think helped sort of put this one in a different perspective for him. But that's obviously a huge storyline coming into this one. Just McCarthy, former team, don't want to lose to them.
I think it really took a backseat as it should. Number one, McCarthy this week, day one, Monday, said he felt like that became too much of a story and it became about him, and he clearly didn't like that. Even though I don't want to say he helped perpetuate it, he just kind of answered questions honestly, and it was great. But I think two big differences. One, he was going back to Lambeau, where obviously he was for 13 years on the other sideline as the head coach there. And two, and maybe the bigger thing, was you going back up against Aaron Rodgers. And it's no secret they did not have a great relationship at the end. I don't know how many years it was that they did not have that great relationship. But they can say all they want about, I love him and I love him and respect and respect. And that thing had crashed. And that tends to happen. And so that was a whole different story I felt like going up here. I feel like today, honestly, I just feel like it's football. And at the end of it, if the Cowboys win, it'll be an addendum. Oh, and by the way, Mike McCarthy beat his old team.
Absolutely. And one final question, babe. When you look at the Packer offense outside of Aaron Jones, who seems like to really be the engine for this offense, and he's been playing lights out over the last month of the season, what's the skill guy that you feel like Dallas needs to take away?
Well, they are so young, first and foremost. My goodness. The receivers, and I'll include the tight ends. Anybody catching the ball outside of the running backs, nobody has over 2 years of experience. Luke Musgrave was on IR for the last 6 weeks, played 9 snaps last week, second-round pick, going to be a great player. He's got no experience under his belt for the most part. Romeo Doubs, second-year player. He was in the hospital last week. He was coughing up blood after the game. So, I mean, the list goes on. Christian Watson, like you said, may not play. He's only a second-year guy. You think of him as a veteran guy. But two guys I look out for. Jaden Reed, who was their second-round pick out of Michigan State.
He's a good one.
And Bo Melton, who nobody knows about. Bo Melton, number 80. This guy can fly. He can run. So those two guys are both speed guys that can make plays. But I think, to your point there, Eric, it all goes back to Aaron Jones. He's been fantastic. He's had 100 yards in each of his last 3 games. He was out for about 4 weeks with a knee injury. But since he has come back, this team has averaged 430 yards a game. He is just such a difference maker, not only the running game, but the passing game. And I think the big thing, too, very quickly, I'll try to wrap this up for you. I know we got to get to break, but give the ball to Aaron Jones early. Take the pressure off Jordan Love. Don't come out with Jordan Love throwing the ball 5 times on the first 5 plays and putting the pressure on him. You got a veteran guy who's a great player in number 33, Aaron Jones. Put it on him early. And I think they'll do that.
Love it. Babe Laufenberg, ladies and gentlemen. Appreciate it, babe. Have a great day. Enjoy the game.
All right. Thank you, guys. Appreciate you.
Yes, sir. There he goes. Babe Laufenberg. Let's go ahead and pause 10 seconds for station identification right here on your home of the Cowboys, 105.3 The Fan.
Your turn it on, leave it on. Home of America's team is 105.3 The Fan.
Hello, baby.
KRLD FM and HD1, Dallas Fort Worth.
Always live on the free Odyssey app.
Your Cowboys pregame show is brought to you by Papa John's. It's big, it's good, and it's only for Cowboys fans. The Cowboys special from Papa John's, a large one-topping pizza for only $9.99. Order today. Better ingredients, better pizza. Papa John's, the official pizza of the Dallas Cowboys. It's the official pregame party of the Dallas Cowboys, taking you up until kickoff here at AT&T Stadium. Cowboys and Packers. Let's get you set as we go inside the Star with Bobby Belt, and we'll hear from Jake Ferguson next right here on The Fan.
Bell Nunnally has been committed to serving their clients for more than 4 decades. This Dallas
Getting you set for playoff football here on your home of the Cowboys, 105.3 The Fan, AT&T Stadium. Cowboys and Packers, 2.5 hours to a playoff kickoff, and I'm seeing photo evidence of our guy Micah Parsons entering AT&T Stadium in a Bobby Boucher jersey, boys.
Oh, old nine god, Bobby Boucher.
He's ready to play with his hair on fire today. Jordan Love's not going to know. He's never seen or experienced the speed of a pass rush like this. Micah Parsons is going to be all up in his kitchen for 4 quarters, and that is going to be the demise of the Packers offense. There, I said it. Bobby Belt inside the Star as we are live here in the Brad Sham radio booth. Bob, happy playoff game day, sir.
Happy playoff game day, and yeah, that's the hope, right? Like Micah Parsons, Rex shop for Jordan Love. I got a question for you, Brian. Did you happen to go back and watch the tape from last year's game this week?
I did not.
I went back, I watched that, and I know we all remember the run game was bad for them that day, the run defense.
A lot of off-ball linebacker for...
They just worked them on the edges.
Yeah.
And at times, some of it was miscommunication, guys stepping in wrong gaps. But a lot of it at times also was guys playing too aggressive, getting too far upfield. So, yes, you do want Micah Parsons playing with his hair on fire, but you want it a little under control. Let's not lose those edges and have Aaron Jones just wreck you on the outside, because that has been a point of emphasis for the Cowboys this week in their defensive meetings, is we got to make sure that we're not just getting run on the edges this week.
Dude, I am a firm believer in A-gap Micah Parsons. I like A-gap Micah Parsons. I like him just tearing up centers as much as possible, getting in the face of the quarterback, being a disruptor in the run game. Because
he can work Josh Myers in this game.
Oh my gosh, he will take Josh. Yes, he will take Josh Myers to dark places that he never thought he would see before, and he's going to do it in front of all of America. And I'm looking forward to that. When you see Jordan Love being like a on the run thrower, like his QBR is 31st in the league when he's on the run.
No.
Okay, Micah Parsons up the middle. All of a sudden, Jordan Love's escaping, and now he's on the move where he's the second worst quarterback in the sport when throwing the football. on the move. Like, to me, that's the recipe. That's the Micah deployment today. It's an A-gap, dominate the center, in the face of Love, make him run. He doesn't throw well on the run. Boom.
And that all sounds great, and that is awesome. The reality, though, also is that if you fail to do so, and that is why it's a key, but if you fail to do so, Jordan Love can hurt you inside the pocket. Like, I mean, he has been, the second half of this season, he's been fantastic. I think over the last 8 weeks of the season, he had the second highest passer rating in the NFL. He was second in touchdown passes. He was first in passing yards. He is somebody who can absolutely make life difficult on them today, especially if he gets Christian Watson back and Christian Watson's able to play. That would be a big boost for him. But, I mean, I don't know that we've talked enough about, like, as a commentary across the league and league analysis, just not only how impressive it is what Jordan Love's doing, but how impressive it is what he's doing when you look at his cast of receivers. Like, it makes me wonder that, okay, if you...
Man, I don't think those guys are bad.
I don't think they're bad, but there's not like a stud. There's not a Lamb out there. There's not a chance. Like, most of these quarterbacks across the league, they at least have the one guy.
The Packers have always found a way to draft a quarterback in the second, third, fourth, fifth round, and then he turns into a stud.
Sure.
Or Guy Adams. That's what they do. They are not interested in drafting a CeeDee Lamb. Would they love to have CeeDee Lamb? Absolutely. Would they have loved to draft CeeDee Lamb in the second round and have him be CeeDee Lamb?
All over that.
They've been all over that.
Sure.
Yeah. And let's remember Christian I always say it, Watson. Christian, I want to call him Watkins.
It's elementary, brother.
Yeah, Christian Watkins. His situation was, up until this game last year, he was not doing anything.
No.
And he hasn't played a lot this year, too. But that's what I'm saying. Dobbs, Reed, Wicks, they have found a way.
The tight ends are
exactly. Croft.
Yeah, you got Musgrave there. They've got
it's one of those kind of skill groups that you're sitting there going, well, there's no names, but those are good players.
They're good.
They're all good players.
They're good. It's just they do lack the, like, how are we going to cover this guy player at receiver? And I feel like most of the teams across the NFL, specifically ones with big-time quarterbacks, have that guy. Like even if it's in Kansas City where the receiving core is not good anymore, they've got Kelsey. Kelsey's the how are we going to cover that guy. Here in Dallas, it's Lamb, it's Chase, it's Justin Jefferson, it's Tyreek Hill, it's whatever. So I'm just saying, I think that's absolutely impressive that Jordan Love has done what he's done with a good receiving core. It's not a bad group, but it doesn't have that one guy that it's like, how do we account for him? How do we stop him? And in general, I think that's just really impressive.
Is he your biggest concern today at the quarterback for Green Bay?
No, my biggest concern for this game is that they are, and I don't know how easy it would be for them to duplicate this game plan, but my biggest concern is that they duplicate Buffalo's game plan.
Doing that is just being committed to the run.
Sure, but I don't know if the only thing I wonder about is Buffalo, I think, had an easier time getting up to the second level and making plays and clearing space and doing things that they need to do. I don't know how easy it's going to be for Green Bay to get up to the second level. They got some heavy-footed offensive linemen, and Dallas plays really fast.
Yeah, John Runyon is a heavy-footed
and I just don't know, with as fast as Dallas plays on defense, I just think it might be difficult for them to get up on the second level and get hands on guys. And so that's something that Buffalo was able to do. Buffalo was able to get blockers up to the next level and take things out, and so I think that Green Bay would like to try to do that. I was talking to somebody around the team this week. They were like, hey, look, we're expecting Matt LaFleur to pull out all the stops this week.
Sure.
Like, he is a smart coach. He's one of the better coaches in the game, and he's going to come in here and he's going to do everything he can. So that vulnerability that we've all seen in the run defense times this year, I'm sure he turned on the tape. He's seen it. In fact, every game where Matt LaFleur has been a coordinator or head coach, and he's played the Dallas Cowboys, which I think has been 5 games, his teams have rushed for 120 or more. He does commit to the run, and he's had a lot of success doing it against Dallas, regardless of if it's been the Rod Marinelli defense, the Chris Richard influenced defense, or whatever.
More concerned, your biggest concern on the Cowboys' offensive line, center or right tackle?
That's a good question.
Because they both have moments.
Yep. Man, and the thing is that both of those guys are going to have their hands full in terms of with power players.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, you've got the guys like Preston Smith, Rashawn Gary, like they play with a lot of power. Kenny Clark plays with a lot of power, and those are two guys, Biadasz and Steele, that are going to have some issues. I guess I would say I feel like Dak plays better. Like, if you're telling me in the games where, Terrence Steele really stuck out as having a bad game, or Biadasz stuck out as having a bad game.
When Biadasz is bad,
I feel like when Biadasz is bad, that's what makes the offense go. Because, I mean, it's right in his face instantly.
I agree.
Whereas we've seen him be able to maneuver. Dak is very savvy in the pocket. He knows how to kind of maneuver and step up. And I think he can adjust to if Terrence Steele's struggling. It's really difficult to get the ball and have somebody on you if Broaddus is struggling.
Yeah. Bobby Belt, Inside the Star, with us here on the official pregame show of America's Team, getting you set for Cowboys and Packers. Dak Prescott versus the pressure is fantastic. I think we've seen him be more willing to use his legs this season than we have in the last couple post-injury.
Sure.
But now that it's playoff time, I think it's really all cards on the table, and I could see Dak running around, taking first downs left and right, in the red zone, getting him involved in the run game. Like, for as good as Rashawn Gary is, I've seen him look lost on these zone read deals where he doesn't know what he's supposed to do. There's a quarterback 15 yards. I could see Dak scrambling for a touchdown.
Yeah, I mean, I think that, Dak has been, and Dak talked about it in that interview he did with Jason Garrett a couple weeks ago, he became very, purposeful in running the ball more after the San Francisco game. Like, that was something he wanted to do and something that he wanted to commit to. And so I think we've seen that. We've seen the benefit of that. And it's something that I think when you look at Green Bay's defense and what they try to do, and you're right, yeah, if there's some pressure here, he may have to break the pocket. He may have to do some things. They may have, read options that they want to do because there's some, aggressiveness at times from Rashawn Gary. I think Rashawn Gary overall is good against the run. I don't think he's a bad run defender, but I mean, yeah, there are times where he misreads, just like
just the zone read stuff.
Yeah, sure, sure. I think he's a good run defense player, but yeah, some of the zone read stuff.
He's
that's
tough to deal with,
though,
man.
Yeah.
This is going to be. Steele is going to have to get after today. I mean, those are the two spots. I am definitely looking at center and I'm looking at right tackle.
Yeah,
that's the spots when. And Steele has had moments where he's been really, really good, and hopefully they won't have to help him too much in this game.
Yeah, that would be really. I mean, if they can block everything up, if they can protect Dak for long enough, and if they can find success with some of these throws up the seam, if CeeDee Lamb can continue to be CeeDee Lamb, I don't think that this team down here today, the Green Bay Packers, can keep up with you.
Yeah.
If those things happen, it's going to be really difficult for you to keep up with Dallas's passing game.
Okay, let's look at the Cowboy defense. Non-Micah Parsons player that we will be talking about having a huge impact defensively after the game.
I mean, every single game this year where it feels like we need a big play or there's a drive going on, it's like you need a big play. I don't feel like, as great of a year as Mike has had, I don't feel like that's been Micah this year. I feel like that's been DeMarcus Lawrence, that whenever they've needed a big-time play in a big moment, it's been DeMarcus Lawrence. And so, I mean, if you're talking about that this is a close game or we're going to look back on impact plays like, hey, that was a real game-changer there, then, I mean, that right there would I think we'd be talking about DeMarcus Lawrence. And I'll give you another guy that I think, just because I'm not going to bet against him with how we were all trying to throw dirt on him, essentially, including myself a couple of weeks back. Jordan Lewis has been so good the last 6 weeks or so, especially in terms of just the way that he battles. He's so physical. He's such a smart football player. I just think that, he has made so many big plays. Like the Washington play, he just strips the ball away. Yeah. He gets the great read on the Detroit game where he gets the interception. He is so smart and so locked in, and I think that we've seen him make so many big plays down the stretch when there were a lot of questions about him, that I could see Jordan Lewis again stepping up here and just locking in and saying, I need to make a play and make a play.
Dude, I couldn't agree more. I mean, one of the things that gives me confidence about this defense, I will say, is a few weeks ago with the way they handled Detroit. An offense that could really put some points on you, and they were able to suffocate him pretty well. But also the two individuals, Jordan Lewis and Donovan Wilson, playing pretty much their best football of the entire season over these last couple of weeks, and I think those two guys trending in the right direction versus a team that likes to run the football. I mean, hey, you're going to need, Deron Bland, thank goodness you're a guy who's ready to step up and tackle people, because we're going to need you on the edge. Same with Jordan Lewis, same with Donovan Wilson, who's a tough SOB, and him being back to himself is huge for this defense. Same question about the offense, the non-CeeDee Lamb player that we will be giving all sorts of props to at the end of this
Ferguson. I think this is going to be a big game for Jake Ferguson today. And I think that he's a massive X factor. I think if you're able to get him, I bet you see early on in this game, I bet you see that they try to attack Green Bay with Ferguson, and that they try to get some stuff in the middle of the field with him and hit some of these throws in the 10 to 20 intermediate area. And if they're able to hit those, then this is going to be a long day for Green Bay. And so I think Ferguson's locked in. I think it's really tough for these Green Bay linebackers and safeties to cover. And I think they are keenly aware of that and know how difficult it will be on Green Bay if they can't contain Ferguson. Because if they can't contain Ferguson, it's going to open up a lot of other things that they want to do with Lamb and Cooks.
Cowboys by double digits?
The score I picked for this one was 38-24 Cowboys. So, yes, Cowboys by double digits. And, look, I'm not saying it's not impossible for this thing to go the other way because, I mean, Green Bay is a tough football team, and they're playing really well the last 8 weeks of the season. But I do think that if Dallas comes out here and plays their game, Green Bay won't be able to beat them. It would have to take Dallas coming here and falling short in areas where they've played better throughout the year. Like it'd have to be a disappointment in terms of a few areas of effort, I think.
Thank you, Bob.
Love y'all.
There he goes, Cowboys insider Bobby Belt here on the official pregame show of the Dallas Cowboys. Today's wildcard game between the Green Bay Packers and the Dallas Cowboys at AT&T Stadium is brought to you by Bank of America, the official bank of the Dallas Cowboys. Just over 2 hours to a playoff kickoff here on your home of the Cowboys, 105.3 The Fan. Let's go behind enemy lines with the voice of the Packers, Wayne Larrivee, next right here on The Fan.
Whether you're getting ready to
of Chicago, and there is your dagger. Eddie Jackson made the tackle downfield, 10-yard gain. Time winding down. Bears are powerless to stop the clock. The Packers have 1st and 10 at the Chicago 31. Victory formation and dropping to a knee, Jordan Love. Everybody in Lambeau Field on their feet.
It's time to go behind enemy lines as we're just over 2 hours to a playoff kickoff. Cowboys and Packers, voice of the Packers, Wayne Larrivee sits down with us in the Brad Sham radio booth. Happy playoff football to you, sir. Not what we expected when this season started, that the Packers would be in the playoffs. They find a quarterback, it seems like, and they find themselves with an opportunity to advance in the playoffs. That's pretty special.
Yeah, it really is. You know, when you're the youngest team in the league, you don't often get to do things like play meaningful football in December and then actually get to the playoffs. It doesn't usually happen that way. And so this has been a great experience for these young kids on the Packers squad. And, you know, they come in here and, you know, everyone around them says they're playing with house money. The players think there's more to it than that.
Yes, absolutely. Some people have been texting in during the show, you know, it's scary to play against a team who's got nothing to lose. I'm like, well, I mean, nothing to lose. This is a pretty dang big game here. It is still win or go home for these guys, and it's the 9th all-time meeting between these two franchises in the playoffs.
Yeah.
I mean, it's pretty crazy. Very familiar, very common opponents here between the Packers and the Cowboys. When you think of this matchup and you get all historical and you get in your feelings, what comes to mind?
You know, really, it starts with the two games, the one played down to the Cotton Bowl here when I was a kid in 1966 watching on TV, and then the Ice Bowl game. I mean, that will forever be the greatest game in Packers history. But, you know, more recently, I mean, you know, I've had the honor to be broadcasting the game in Green Bay when the Cowboys came up for a playoff game and the Des Bryant no-catch thing. And then, you know, a couple of years later, a Packers team, pretty lightly regarded, you know, had made a nice run down the stretch, played the Cowboys here. The Cowboys are the number 1 seed in the divisional playoffs, and Aaron Rodgers kind of lit them up a little bit and hit Cook on a corner route, a sideline route. And then Mason Crosby kicked a 50-some-yard field goal, not once but twice, because Jason Garrett got a timeout called. And he put the first one down the middle. The second one he almost pulled wide left, but it did get inside the upright. So, yeah, there have been some great moments in this series. And, of course, in the 90s, the Cowboys dominated the Packers, you know, and I know you were part of that group, Ryan, in Green Bay.
Right.
The Packers couldn't get by the Cowboys.
No.
And they didn't.
Yeah.
They won their championship without beating the Cowboys. As a matter of fact, they lost to the Cowboys here in Dallas in a field goal game. It was like 12-9 in the middle of the season. So, you know, they never got by the Cowboys when they finally beat Dallas. It was after they had won the Super Bowl the following year, and the Cowboys came to Green Bay, and the Packers beat them pretty well. But it's interesting because that team didn't go through Dallas to get to the Super Bowl. Carolina intervened and beat Dallas the week before the NFC Championship game after the 1996 season. So I think the game in Green Bay between the Cowboys and Packers that year would have been epic. It would have been epic.
Yeah, I'll never forget, Wayne, when Mr. Harlan came up to me and he goes, "Well, we got Dallas right where we want him. We got him." Like, Mr. Harlan, let's play that expansion team. We can't beat that. We can't beat that other bunch. We're struggling with that. That expansion team's looking okay right now. And sure enough, though, you know, Carolina did get through. But Wayne, you know, you have a great history with this organization, though, and you mentioned the young team. And it's always been kind of the Packer way of drafting receivers, but not drafting first-round receivers, and then all of a sudden find a way to develop. They've done a great job through the history of the organization developing wide receivers. Kind of talk about this group that you're working with here today.
We knew going into the season they had, and I'd never seen, I've been in the NFL 46 years, Kansas City, Chicago, Green Bay. I've never seen, and I saw some, you know, Marv Levy's first year in Kansas City was my first year. He's running the wing T offense. I mean, they got virtually nobody on the perimeter, but they had at least guys with their 3 and 4 and 5 years of experience. This receiving core this year, no one that Jordan Love is throwing to has been in the league for more than 2 years. No one, outside of a running back, if you want to count them. But the tight ends are all rookies. The wide receivers are either second-year players or they're rookies. And To me, I'm sitting there this summer saying, well, they're inexperienced, but you could tell at camp. You could tell in the mini camps. You could tell these kids are talented, but they're really inexperienced. So God knows what's going to happen. And by the way, you got a first-year starting quarterback, and wow, to see what they've done. Because, Jordan Love's getting a lot of love right now, so to speak. But these receivers stepped up, too, because the Packers were in the middle of a 4-game losing streak earlier in this year and was looking to hemorrhage to 5 or 6. And, the feeling was, and they had a kind of a come-to-Jesus moment where, okay, we don't know what we have in Jordan Love because everyone around him is playing so poorly. And when the wide receivers started going after the ball, I think there was an emphasis that, hey, you've got to be more aggressive. When the ball's in the air, you've got to get it, or you've got to make sure they don't get it. And that started, in the Pittsburgh game. They lost that Pittsburgh game, but you could see there was a turning of the page with the quarterback, with the receivers, and they kind of took off from there.
Behind enemy lines with the voice of the Packers, Wayne Larrivee, here on the official pregame show of the Dallas Cowboys. You mentioned Aaron Jones, Showtime. He's obviously a monster, and he has been a huge thorn in the Cowboys' side over really the course of his career. He's on a heater to close out this season. How committed to the run game will LaFleur be today?
I think he'll be very committed to the run game. It's probably the best way for the Packers to hang in this game and to at least get their offense maybe into some kind of a rhythm. So I think early on the run game for the Packers is going to be, hey, last year when they played the Cowboys in Lambeau Field, LaFleur came out and ran the ball 7 straight times. His first 7 play calls were runs, and they went on to, get 200-plus yards. I know the Cowboys are schemed. They're built. That's interesting with the Cowboys because they're kind of built to stop the pass. Why? Because they're counting on their offense getting up on the opposition, which is exactly what they've done all season long. They lead the league, 129 points in the first quarter. They're almost always leading at halftime. That means the other team's got to throw the ball. So what do? You get fast guys, a rushing quarterback, you get guys who can cover, and that's how the Cowboys are built. But if you can slow the Cowboys at the beginning and be in the ball game and execute a ground game, you got a chance. Now, I'm not saying Dallas is bad against the run. They're not. But the 2 preferred inside linebackers for the Cowboys are where? On IR.
On IR, right.
So, that tells you something right there.
Wayne, how concerned should Packer fans be, though, about their defense? I mean, we've heard really all year long about with Joe Barry, the people are back and forth. He should be here. He should not be here. They got to make a change. What's the problems? Is there concerns, though? Is there ways that they've struggled against the run? They were a little banged up in the secondary. Is that the concern today for Packer fans of how well their defense will play?
I would say if you asked Packers fans before every game, the concern is about the defense.
Sure.
Yeah, can they stop people? Now, they have the last couple of weeks, but, again, Minnesota is playing 3rd and 4th string caliber quarterbacks. Last week they did a nice job against the Bears, and the Bears can run the football. That's one thing they can do, and they stop the run defensively. The Bears are a tough football team. People don't realize it yet, but they are. And the Packers did well in that game at Lambeau Field. But, Carolina got to them in the 4th quarter. Before that, they had been boat raced a couple of times. And, so it's been tough defensively, and especially against the run. And I would expect Mike McCarthy to come out here and run the football himself.
Now, when it comes to these fans in Green Bay, what's the level of optimism going into this one?
Well, fans are always optimistic, and they have recent history to base that on. Like I mentioned, the playoff game following the 2016 season, Dallas is the number 1 seed. The Packers struggle in here, and they get a win. And so anything can happen on a given day. There's no question about that. But I think people in Green Bay are very happy about the fact that this young team, got to the playoffs. I think that's, if they don't win here today, then the experience has still been great for this young group.
It's probably going to be a terrible question, Wayne, but is there relief with Aaron Rodgers being gone?
I'm sorry if that's a very interesting question because we could sense it. See, in the last couple of years, and the reason the Packers are, lead the universe in dead money on the cap.
Sure.
Okay. It's not just Aaron Rodgers, but there were other things they did over the previous 3 years, Super Bowl or bust. When you do that, you push money into the future. You're hoping the cap will go up exponentially and cover some of those losses for you. But in the end, you have to pay the piper. That's what this season is. They're paying the piper. And they've gotten a little more mileage out of this than you would expect. But what I sensed with this team at the start of mini camps in the spring was this team was freer. It was happier. It was looser because they didn't have that Super Bowl or bust expectation on them. For example, they got to the final game of the regular season with exactly the same record they had the year before and exactly the same circumstances, okay? Beat a surging division opponent and make the playoffs.
Right.
Well, Super Bowl or bust, they kind of buckled under that and lost to the Lions. This team, they looked at it as an opportunity. Oh, wait, they're kind of playing with house money, and we're going to go win this game, and we're going to get another game. Boy, isn't that going to be great? And that's kind of how they approach it. So this team doesn't have the burden of Super Bowl or bust on it, and I think it's made a big difference.
Voice of the Packers, Wayne Larrivee, with us here on The Fan. Jair Alexander, what's going on with him health-wise? Do we expect him to play, and is he the type of guy that we can expect to shadow and follow around CeeDee Lamb at every turn today?
I don't know if he's going to play. He worked out. We saw him an hour ago working out. He looked pretty good to me, but I'm not the one making that determination. And no, I don't know if he'll play. I think he will, but I don't know for sure. And number two, I don't think he'll follow CeeDee Lamb because CeeDee Lamb lines up everywhere. And you would compromise your defense if you dedicated one guy to following him around. And Jair's not a slot defender, and CeeDee Lamb spends a lot of time in the slot. But I think the Packers will play it fairly straight up in that regard in terms of coverage. Who knows? I mean, I just can't see them assigning. Jair Alexander has not had, when he's played this year, he's not been the same player he was last year when he was totally healthy. The reason he's not is he's had injuries all season. Sure. But I honestly think that even now, if he's healthy enough to play, which I believe he will be, they're going to put him out there. But I don't think he's in that at that level where, like, last year he took Justin Jefferson, the best receiver in football at the time, shut him down. I mean, threw him in jail and lost the key. The guy had one catch the whole day. Jair is not playing at that level. And, I'm not saying anything out of school. Go look at the metrics, okay? The passer rating against, the Pro Football Focus grades, all that stuff. And, so I think Jair's playing better. I saw him play well last week. I think he could play well here today if he's healthy. But will he tag CeeDee Lamb? No. I would be shocked if he did.
How about with Watson? Watson at receiver. I mean, we mentioned all the wide receivers and stuff like that. He's missed a lot of time for the Packers.
A ton of time. He's been out 5 weeks.
And so the hamstring thing has just been really just an issue for him.
The hamstring, I don't know what it is, but it's been a chronic injury for him. He's now missed 5 weeks, I want to say, down the stretch of the regular season. And, yet he, at the time, he was destroying Kansas City. He was really, I mean, you look at the numbers, you have 5 TD passes. He's hardly played. Right. So he looks to me like he's going to go today. And, on this surface, this turf, that type of thing, he can be a monster, there's no doubt, if he's ready to go. And I would imagine if they put him out there, he's ready to go. But he's one of the guys that needed to start attacking the ball when it was in the air earlier this season. And and he started doing that, and that's when he took off, and he had a great 3-4 games, and then the hamstring again against Kansas City.
Well, Wayne, this has been a real treat for us, my friend. Why don't you go get you some of that legendary AT&T press box culinary experience.
Okay.
Go get you some of that delicious food, my friend.
You got it. Take care, guys. Good to be with you.
Thank you.
Likewise. There he goes, behind enemy lines, voice of the Packers, Wayne Larrivee, ladies and gentlemen. Wild Card Sunday. This is fantastic at AT&T Stadium. We'll continue to break this game down. About to hear from Cowboys tight end Jake Ferguson. He is today's star of the player profile. So let's get you Chris Arnold, the Hall of Famer, hanging out with Cowboys tight end Jake Ferguson, brought to you by Reliant and NRG Company. Take it away, CA.
Jake Ferguson, it's the playoffs. How you feeling tonight?
Feeling good. This is what you dream about coming to the NFL. The start of that season, that's where you kind of figure out, who you are as a team, who you are as a player. And, you got that goal at the end of the season, and, this is just that first step to reaching that goal.
It plays out really nice for you guys with the home game. Win this home game, you get another home game. But ironic for you, who grew up in Wisconsin, went to Wisconsin, there's the Packers. Tell me how you feel about the Packers. It would have assumed that you grew up a Packers fan, but we just don't know.
No.
Tell the truth.
No. Not a Packers fan. I'm a Wisconsin Badgers fan.
Okay.
I got no ties with the Packers.
Right? They're just another team.
Didn't like them growing up.
Mm-hmm.
I got no ties.
You have no friends on the team? Tell the truth.
I got friends. But not this week.
Got it. Okay, so you got the Packers defensively. What kind of schemes you guys going to be looking at, and how are they going to use you? This is hours for the game, so you can tell us.
Yeah, I think with their defense being really strong up front, I think it's important to, not only trust our run game, be physical up front, but also, be physical in the pass game. You can still be physical when you're pass blocking. And I think at the same time, getting out on routes, create separation. I think that's one of our biggest things, that, and then also just trusting ourselves, executing.
You've had a very nice season, but Dak has had an incredible season. He has said that you and Tyler Smith are his bodyguards, that he would walk through an alley with you guys. Can you talk about your guys' relationship?
Yeah, I'm not letting anybody touch 4. That's our leader. A leader's got to have some followers, and that's where my role comes in. He shows me a brick wall. He says run through it. I'm running through it. That's my job.
What kind of game would you guys offensively have to do to win this game? Is it the typical let's score first, keep the other team's offense off the field, reduce the snaps for the defense, and basically dominate that way? Is that the formula for success, especially at home?
I think it's just from here on out, be dominant in everything we're doing. You can be dominant in practice. You can be dominant with the approach you take on your body, what you're doing off the field. It starts now. Be dominant. Start earlier in the week. Be dominant in everything you're doing, and then Sunday comes, you let loose. You know what I mean? Play with supreme confidence. Play for the man next to you, and like you said, be dominant.
All right, Big Biscuit. Good luck this afternoon against the team that you really don't care for.
Yep, appreciate you.
Jake Ferguson, ladies and gentlemen, Cowboys tight end. Thank you, CA, for today's player profile. Big Biscuit, he did it. He did it, Broaddus. You were wondering. Would CA throw the nickname in there, Big Biscuit? And he absolutely did. He hit a home run. Jake Ferguson, I love the mentality. This dude's been a monster all season long, and what he's done on the field. But there's an energy, there's a toughness, there's a physicality. He's talking about running through walls. He's there to be that sort of that Dak protector dude. He's just running through defenders' faces after the catch. I just love it. Maybe he's jumping over them or he's just running right through them. But I do believe today is going to be a great opportunity for him. I know over the course of the season, defenses have started to key in on him a little bit more, maybe use a little bit more of their better coverage players.
Might play some dime against him, that sixth defensive back. That's what teams have been able to do. They treat him like a wide receiver at times.
Yeah.
Where they put a corner on him, and try and jam him at the line and run with him, and see if they can defend him that way. I mean, he's too good for linebackers. He's too good for safeties. So it's unless again linebackers, unless you're playing against the 49ers or something like that with the way that they cover with Warner and those guys. But
that's definitely not these Packers.
Not these Packers. No, I would not be surprised if they play some dime against him and put a corner on him and see if they can cover him that way.
The Packers have been one of the worst pass defenses in all of football when it comes to defending the middle of the field. So a guy like Jake Ferguson up the seam, we know Dak loves to hit him there, but really just anywhere working that middle. CeeDee Lamb will get plenty of opportunities there as well. But I got a good feeling Jake Ferguson's going to have himself a nice afternoon here at AT&T Stadium. And Chris mentioned they're having a fast start. Jake Ferguson definitely agreed. You just saw Wayne Larrivee, Packers play-by-play voice, tell us the way the Cowboys are built to get a lead and then be able to attack defensively with the vaunted pass rush. Right. And I saw a huge key to the game from Sharp Football Analysis. A huge part of the Packers turnaround this season, earlier in the year they struggled. They were not a team that you felt like was going to be a playoff team. The second half of the season they've really gotten going, and a part of that is because they've started games so much quicker. The first 9 games of the season, Green Bay was 31st in the league in terms of points per drive in the first half of games. So Green Bay started the season being a team that was perpetually playing from a deficit, and they weren't able to overcome it. Consistently in holes, being outscored by 59 points in the first half of games through the first 9 weeks of the season. That was third worst in the league. But then they flipped it. Green Bay, over their final 8 games, Green Bay scored almost 3 points per drive in the opening half of games. That's third best in the NFL. And they have they're tied for first in point differential when it comes to first halves of games as well in the final 8 games of the season. So they've been getting off to fast starts, and they've been able to start playing with leads, and that's been huge for them. So I think the start of this game and how the Cowboys, they get the ball, you go down and score. Now all of a sudden you're playing with a huge advantage because Green Bay's shown if they're down at the half, they're not the type of team that generally is able to come back on you, but they can keep a lead. They can certainly keep a lead, and they've been dealing with a lot of halftime leads through the first half of the season. So the first half's going to be super interesting to see how it plays out, because if the Cowboys can get cranking early, you feel good about their opportunity to go ahead and close this thing out, let that pass rush. Because, I mean, you talked about it all week long in the G-Bag Nation, Broaddus. This offensive line for the Packers, they've done a nice job preventing pressures. Jordan Love's dealt with a lot of clean pockets. Just last week versus the Bears, he was only pressured on 4 of his 34 dropbacks. That's going to be conducive to great success for any quarterback, any passing game. I don't think Jordan Love in this Packers front is going to be prepared for the type of speed and pass rush that these guys with the Cowboys are going to be bringing. And I think that's going to be a huge factor in the game. Yeah, the crowd noise will be a factor. We always talk about communication. The Cowboys, heck, people. I was on Mike Lombardi's show this morning, and Mike asked me, he's like, "What's the difference between the Cowboys' offense on the home and on the road?" And I'm saying communication. When you get in these environments, and we've talked about, what Babe was talking about with Minnesota and that crowd and all that, but this playoff atmosphere is a lot different. The pressure's a lot different. If you cannot communicate, you get the false starts, you miss blocking checks, you miss blitz pickup checks. There's a lot of things that can factor into you not having success of your offense, especially when you're playing in an environment that could be very, very loud, like they're probably going to have today. Yes, for sure. And Micah, Tank, Fowler, Armstrong, Osa, bringing that constant pressure is going to be paramount. And that's why I like the idea of Micah being the, he's always going to be moving around. He's just that type of dude. So you're going to put him on the edge. You're going to put him in the A gaps or whatever, maybe a touch off ball. But for the most part, I believe he needs to be on the line of scrimmage, and I think he can take advantage of Myers, this center. Yeah, and Josh Myers will struggle with him today. And their tackles set soft, and you always laugh at the uncomfortable name of Zach Tom, the right tackle. Two fake names, but yeah, they do. And Rasheed Wallace, the Walker, the left tackle. Both of these guys set soft, and so and the one thing the Cowboys can do, get off the ball and then go from speed to power and just run these guys right back into Jordan Love's lap. Yeah. And that's how if you can compress that pocket and then force the front of that pocket, say with a Micah Parsons, you're going to have some good things going forward. Yeah, man, absolutely, because when you get Micah all up in Jordan Love's face there at the snap of the ball because the center can't handle what Micah's bringing to the table, and then Jordan Love is forced out of the pocket and on the move, that's where he's 31st in QBR when it comes to throwing on the run. So I think that's going to be something you want to take advantage of. This rushing attack for the Packers, though, we need to dive into this a little bit. The Cowboys' run defense has definitely been much better since that debacle in Buffalo a few weeks ago, but how much better has it gotten? And the threat of Aaron Jones is going to be huge, so we'll break that down for you coming up here in just a bit. But coming up next, let's welcome in the television voice of the Cowboys. That's what I'm calling him for today. Fox's Kevin Burkhardt. Fox has been all over these Cowboys all season long, and we'll get the breakdown from KB next here on The Fan.
Hi, I'm Frank Volleman, owner of Volleman.
America's team is 105.3 The Fan.
Hello, baby.
KRLD FM and HD1, Dallas Fort Worth.
Always live on the free Odyssey app.
Prescott can't find anyone. Retreats. Point says go right there. Caught. Lamb again. Ball down. Prescott stands in. Going for the corner for Cook. He's got it. It's another touchdown. Cowboys.
Familiar with this voice. He is the TV voice of the Cowboys is what I have deemed him. Kevin Burkhardt, ladies and gentlemen, on today's call with Greg Olson, Aaron Andrews, and Tom Rinaldi. He's down on the turf of AT&T Stadium, and he joins us now on the official pregame show of the Dallas Cowboys. Happy playoffs, KB. I guess you just knew you were going to be here, right? I mean, all season it feels like you've been all over these Cowboys.
Hey, happy playoffs, guys. Listen, not mad about it, right? Love doing these Cowboys games. So, yeah, we're excited to be here. And this is a fun one. I mean, just a really cool matchup. Dallas back home where they've been great, against the Packers who have been surging, and obviously all their playoff history. I think it's going to be a lot of fun.
Hey, Kevin, and those games were like they were dealing with last night in Kansas City and Buffalo and places like that. Like open air booth. I mean, what all? I mean, is it rugged up there? Are you guys like, I know you got the jackets and stuff on, but is it like hardcore cold up in that place?
Listen, I think everyone thinks we're up in this like hotel room and we're getting fed like berries with fig leaves and the whole thing. Like we're open. We're wide open.
That, Kevin.
Right?
I thought that was you. I did.
Come on now. Now here it's a little different, right? We got a posh setup here. They take care of us here, right? Jerry and family. Boy, it's great. But when you're at those games, wherever it is, you're outside. Like the booth is completely wide open, and so you're cold like everybody else. So yeah, it's interesting. You kind of the adrenaline carries you through. I think the coldest game I've ever done personally, it was 6 degrees at kickoff. That was Packers-Bears years ago. Wow. And you just kind of adrenaline carries you. You're doing the game, and you don't really feel it, and then you get done and you realize you can't feel your face. That type of thing. So yeah, we're not today, but on those games you're kind of out in the elements with everyone else.
Yeah, this is my final question then about this. It's like the gear that you get, like the station issued gear, like Fox gear. Is it good, or do you like, man, I can't wear this. I'm going to freeze my ass off wearing this thing today.
Yeah, I think with those things, we usually just wear. It's just kind of survival mode, Whatever keeps you warm. You look like what you look like. Just kind of stay warm. So I think I'll go with whatever works in those instances, and not worried about what it looks like on TV.
Fox's Kevin Burkhardt with us here on The Fan. Now, I know like radio booth to radio booth around the NFL, it's always a little bit maybe of a different view, different angle, whatever. From a TV booth standpoint, is it pretty cut and dry every stadium? It's sort of the same view, or does it change from stadium to stadium?
Yeah, we are spoiled, right? We get seats on the 50-yard line every stadium, but they are a little different. Some are farther, some are higher, some are just a better angle. I know that may sound weird, but this is the best one in the league. I mean, it's the best booth and view and setup in the league, so this is number one for me. But look, we have a great spot every week, but they do vary a little bit.
Kevin Burkhardt with us here on The Fan. Okay, as we get set for the matchup here, you're in production meetings, you're hanging out with McCarthy. Dak, what'd you learn heading into this game?
Yeah, just was talking to Coach actually a minute ago for jumping on with you guys on the sideline here. I think when you look at it, they feel really good about how last week happened, right? Because they had a lot of things they wanted to fix and things they wanted to clean up. And I think they did. I mean, you talk about, playing well, which they did. I know they had the one turnover, which they didn't love. But, they got the run game going, and I think getting Pollard going was important for them. And, Dak was telling us during the week how they were all talking about how great it was to get him 1,000 yards, and they were very cognizant of it during the week. And I think that was a factor. So I think there were a lot of things in that game that they kind of put a check mark on and said, you know what, this is great. We feel good about going to the week. But I think it's almost, they're so good here. And I think, Coach McCarthy and Dak told us as much. Like, it's almost like come out of the gate and get settled in and call some plays to kind of settle it in and kind of relax the guys a little bit, because it's like this nervous energy. You know, when we talked to Dak, it's like he was like a kid on Christmas Eve. You know, it's really what it was like, just excited. You know, he's excited to be back. So I think it's their tempo early and just kind of getting into a groove. And I think that'll go into some of the play calling that Mike delivers here to start this game. I really do.
Kevin, on the other side of the ball, though, this Jordan Love has been playing really, really well for the Packers, and they've kind of been in playoff mode the last, 4 or 5 weeks trying to get even into this tournament, though. In the conversations you've had with Green Bay people, they have to be super happy with the way that even in the first year he's developed.
We did his first start this year in Chicago, right? When they were just getting going and, all the talk was about, okay, you're taking over for Rodgers, all that stuff. And even then, he was really cool and confident and just very mellow, seemed very chill and at ease. And I think all that time on the bench behind Aaron, really, really helped him, much like it did Rodgers back, with Favre. And as we know, guys, these teams don't have the ability to do that anymore, where you draft somebody high and just let them sit for years. It just doesn't happen. So he had that way about him. And I think, there were a lot of things he was doing well, but for instance, the deep ball was not one of them. Well, midway through the season, they all started getting better. They're all young, so they were all kind of growing together. And now they're one of the best teams in the league at throwing the deep ball. So just his growth and the overall growth of the unit has been something special to watch. But the way he's handled himself has it's been the same. You love talking to him. He's really a joy to talk to. He's easy to root for. But I think when you look at it, when you take all the stories away from it, the bottom line is in the NFC, second half of the year, the best quarterbacks are Prescott, Purdy, and Love. And I don't think many across America realize that. At least they didn't until the last few days.
Yeah, it's really insane that the season that not only he's had, but this entire offense for the Packers, as young as they are, as you mentioned. And then, you get to be around them. I'm curious because, it's crazy they get to go from Favre to Rodgers to Love, but personality-wise, we know a big one in Brett Favre, a big one in Aaron Rodgers. What is Jordan Love like as you get to know him sort of off the field a little bit?
Yeah, he's relaxed. And I think the one factor in this is the whole offense is so young. And I remember before the season, talking to, with Greg Olson, my partner, and we're like, I was asking him, isn't it kind of interesting they didn't bring in, a veteran tight end, just some veteran player to help the young quarterback? And, their theory was, well, everyone kind of grows together. And, Coach LaFleur kind of said, hey, there is one caveat to not having a number one. And, of course, look, everyone likes having a number one receiver. They didn't have the luxury. But he said the caveat is for Jordan Love, you go through and you make the read of the play and you throw the ball. You're not worried about getting somebody, 14 receptions and whatever it is. And as a first-time starter, it just kind of takes a little worry off the plate. So, we were wondering how that would play out. Well, guess what? It's played out. They've had a different leading receiver every month of the year. And, Jordan even told us this week that it's kind of helped him because he goes through, he makes his read, he throws the ball. He's not thinking twice about it. So it's been kind of cool to watch them grow together. And I don't know that it's worked too many times in history with a first-year starting quarterback and an entirely, essentially first- and second-year player offense with the exception of Aaron Jones, but it's worked for them.
Kevin, we've all been kind of looking at the matchup with Jair Alexander, though, in CD. And, you've done so many Cowboy games, so it's difficult for people to defend CD. How do you think the Packers will try to, maybe not scheme-specific, but is Jair Alexander their best option when that's going to be the case when he's matched up with Lamb?
Yeah, I don't think he can. I don't think he can. Really. Stay with him one-on-one in terms of, because it changes what they do defensively, right? I think, look, they can move him on the outside a little bit and rotate him back to back and move him around there. But I don't think they can function as a whole defense when you move him into the slot because it just changes everybody else's responsibility. And outside of Alexander, they've got a couple young corners back there. So I think that's too tough. And, if he plays today, he was out here warming up for a while and he looked like he was going to go. He had a pretty good warm-up. I just don't know that that's the formula today. I think he'd be matched up on CD when they can. The reality is I think it really affects on the strategy, right? So maybe it's more, a lot of times you see maybe you have that ace cornerback and you put him on anyone not named CeeDee Lamb and you try and double CD. It just gives them some options. But I think the reality is here, who's covering CeeDee Lamb? No one's been able to cover him. The way he's playing, the way he moves around so gracefully in and out from the slot to the outside. He's just so different and unique with that ability. So I don't expect, if Alexander plays, guys, I don't expect to see him on CeeDee Lamb a ton. Yes, he'll be on him some. I don't think he's going to move around all the time, though. I'd be surprised.
Okay, Kevin Burkhardt with us here on The Fan. Now, when it comes to the Packers offense, Aaron Jones, been a bit of a Cowboy killer, been on a huge run here to close out the season. How much conversation, as you met with the Packers, just about getting Aaron Jones going for them today?
Yeah, I think it's big. And you know, Matt LaFleur told us, you know, it's kind of, in a way, it's a blessing because there's no tread on his tires, right? He's missed so much time this year. Well, he's obviously completely healthy. And I think the reality is this. For Green Bay to have a chance to win this game, you know, they have to find a way to get out in a lead, play, you know, at least a close game. And, you know, and Dallas has shown in those games they've played to have a tough time with the run. So I think it's an absolute must for him to be a major factor in the game today. You know, and plus you just want to keep Dak and the offense off the field for as much as possible. And the way he's running, it gives him that opportunity. I mean, he's had 3 100-yard games in a row. He's got a 100-yard game every time he plays the Cowboys. He gets amped up to come back home. So, yeah, I think if Green Bay wins, him having a big game would absolutely have to be a part of it.
What do you see in tonight's Sunday Night Football matchup, Detroit and the Rams, Matthew Stafford, Jared Goff? How do you see that one playing out?
It's such a cool game, isn't it? I mean, I think this. I think the Rams are playing great, and their young guys, especially on defense, you know, are really stepping up, and it's such a young unit. It was basically, you know, Raheem Morris told us earlier in the year, joking, he's like, it's Aaron Donald and a bunch of guys, right? A bunch of young guys. But those young guys are all playing really, really well. So I expect the Rams to play well, and I think Stafford will going back. I just think Detroit's good. You know, people kind of expect, because of the Lions, like something, you know, is going to happen. I mean, you guys saw it a couple weeks ago, right? They're good. They're a really, really good team. And I expect them to come out and play well. I think it's going to be a heck of a game, but I like the Lions if I had to pick it.
Kevin Burkhardt, ladies and gentlemen, appreciate the time, sir. Enjoy the game.
Always a pleasure, fellas. We'll see you soon.
Yes, sir. There he goes. Fox's Kevin Burkhardt on today's call with Greg Olsen, Aaron Andrews, and Tom Rinaldi. Cowboys and Packers, a monster playoff matchup. The official pregame show brought to you by Miller Lite, the only beer of the Dallas Cowboys. It is Miller time, and it's time to get the scoop. 90 minutes to a playoff kickoff here at AT&T Stadium. Let's welcome in the best sideline reporter in the business, Christy Scales, next right here on The Fan.
Is your workplace on top of its game? For over 100 years, Pollock Aurora has been taking care of business, improving their bottom lines, and helping them.
Off, Cowboys and Packers. Welcome to the playoffs, ladies and gentlemen. Let's get you the scoop with the best sideline reporter in the business, Christy Scales, down on the turf of AT&T Stadium. Christy, happy playoff game day to you. A very common opponent for these Cowboys when it comes to playoffs, man. Packers and Cowboys. This will be the 9th all-time matchup. This is going to be a lot of fun, Christy.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun in the 90s. Not so much fun the decade of the teens.
Now speak for yourself,
not so much.
Christy.
Yeah.
That was on the other side of that
Well,
thing.
depends. Well, yeah. Oh, by the way, Bisaccia says to tell you hi.
Yeah.
Not really, but.
Rich Bisaccia absolutely hates me.
I tell you, so we're talking about the former Cowboys special teams coordinator who's now with the Green Bay Packers, Rich Bisaccia, and had a nice conversation with him earlier, and he was just so complimentary of the Cowboys kicker and Aubrey and what a great years he has had, and he said make sure that Henry Schroka gets some credit on bringing him to Dallas as well. He said Henry puts a lot of work in on kickers, so promised Rich I would say that, so there we go. But here's the thing. It's really been paying more attention to Green Bay's side of the field for the pregame warm-ups because Jair Alexander, their excellent cornerback, who's missed so many games due to injury or getting suspended for conduct detrimental one game, but the training staff put him through a long workout, and he is available. He will play. He had rolled his ankle in practice on Wednesday, and there was some question as to whether or not he would be able to play today. And then if he were to play, would they match him up some with CeeDee Lamb? But the good news for Green Bay is that they have Jair Alexander to help in the secondary, and then Christian Watson, their really fine second-year wide receiver who had missed missed 7 games in the regular season. No, 8 games.
Yeah, he's missed last 5.
He's back. Yeah, he's actually back, and so he will be able to play today. So they'll they've been playing shorthanded at wide receiver, and some of those rookies and first-year guys stepping up, but they will have Christian Watson to help with Jordan Love in that passing game.
Okay, very good. And on the Cowboys side of things, I know Tyler Smith, Stephon Gilmore, a couple of the big names everybody was curious about today.
Yeah, that's a really important thing with Watson coming back and those big play wide receivers, even though they're young. Stephon Gilmore, the Cowboys cornerback who had hurt his shoulder. It popped out last week in Washington. He did not re-enter the game, and he didn't practice or was limited late in the week, but he is available. He will play today. He was out for the early part of warm-ups, and they're not in uniform. They're just in shorts and T-shirts running around getting loose. He was not wearing a harness at that time, but he'll have a harness and some protective on that right shoulder. So that's the good news, is that Gilmore will play, and then should be full strength on the offensive line with Tyler Smith. And then, of course, Cooper Rush popped up late in the week with an illness. The backup quarterback for Dak Prescott, he is available. So Cooper Rush will be the backup today, and Trey Lance will be the emergency third quarterback. As for the other inactives for the Cowboys, it's the usual suspects. It's cornerback Eric Scott. It's rookie offensive lineman Awesome Richards, offensive lineman Matt Wiletsko, a rookie receiver Jalen Brooks, defensive lineman Tyrus Wheat, and junior Fehoko. So that means that a couple of the guys who were elevated from the practice squad, Malik Jefferson and Buddy Johnson, will be available. That's mostly to help on special teams. And then we may see some of Noah Igbenogany. He has been inactive most of the season, but may even see him do some gunner on punt coverage, but also if there's any kind of problem with Stephon Gilmore with that shoulder, they needed to go a little bit long at cornerback. So that's one more reason why Igbenogany is active today.
Yeah, Scoop, that's great information there for sure. As you get ready for this one, though, and the one worst area that I have, the one worry that I have for an area would be at Tyler Smith at guard. Have you laid eyes on him just moving around or anything during the week to kind of, they're not going to put an injured player out there, I get that, but is there anything you've learned going into the game about this injury or is he going to be fine? How are you feeling about that?
Not like on a pitch count or anything like that, no. And they the parts of practice that we got to see, we did not get to see Tyler Smith do any of the work. We're not watching that part of it. And then he was, they're not out here yet right now. It's just the specialist, so haven't been able to see how well he's moving. But if they weren't happy with that, then he wouldn't be active. So, but it's one thing that we'll be keeping an eye on, probably another 10 minutes or so before more of the guys come out here, and we'll see how get a chance to look up close at the offensive line.
How much is the defense just talking about having to bottle up Aaron Jones?
Well, the defensive staff and the defensive players are so complimentary of Aaron Jones, and I think that fans may have heard or read Coach McCarthy talk about how much he attacks the crease. He doesn't have the wasted movement, and is also a really good route runner and has good hands. So I think that the quote that stood out for me was strong menu of routes. That's what Coach McCarthy said of Jones, so they can use him doing a lot of different things in the passing game. But something that Coach Adden Dirty, who is the defensive line coach, was saying that, that Aaron Jones is listed at 5'9", 208, but he's bigger. He runs bigger than that, and he's also a lot faster than you think. So a crease runner with deceptive speed. He has been a Cowboy killer in the 3 games that he's played against the Cowboys. And that game 2019 here at AT&T Stadium had the 4 scores. So the 3 games against the Cowboys in his career, he's gone over 100 yards each of those. So 370 total yards, and more importantly, averaging 6 yards a run against the Cowboys in his career. And so just talking to the coaches, and not just Adden Dirty, but Dan Quinn, I wish I could come up with something like really cool and neat and really inside. But what everybody is saying is, today is all about the fundamentals. It is the tackling, no extra yards, and then winning the takeaway battle. So the truisms, the basics of football, that's what you have to have in the playoffs to get a victory.
Thanks, Christy. We'll catch up with you next hour.
Thank you, Eric. Thank you, Brian.
There she goes. Cowboys fans, it's big, it's good, and it's only for you. The Cowboys special from Papa John's, a large one-topping pizza for only $9.99. Order today. Better ingredients, better pizza. Papa John's, the official pizza of the Dallas Cowboys. Just over 60 minutes to kick off. Let's hear from McCarthy, Jerry, and so much more as we get you set for Cowboys-Packers next on The Fan.
The Whataburger Jalapeno.
It's playoff time. Just over 60 minutes to kick off. Cowboys and Packers here at AT&T Stadium. The 9th all-time playoff matchup between these two teams. Dallas comes into this one as the only undefeated team at home this season, looking to make it 17 straight home victories, and they're going to do it right here on the Dallas Cowboys radio network. Welcome to the playoffs, Bryan Broaddus. You, sir, very familiar with both of these opponents as you have been a Super Bowl champion as a scout of the Green Bay Packers. You were a scout for these Dallas Cowboys, and the history between these two teams we all know is absolutely insane, and more history is to be made in about 60 minutes.
Yeah, it is. It's both fan bases, huge respect for each other. Both organizations, huge respect for each other. If you remember, go all the way back to Lombardi's Packers, Landry's Cowboys. That's where kind of this all started. And, historic games that were pillars of the National Football League. And, when these two teams meet in the playoffs, as of late, it's been Green Bay getting the better hand. When I was in Green Bay, the Cowboys on their Super Bowl runs were getting the better hand there. So both these teams very, very familiar with this win or go home mentality. And when you're the winning side of this and you move on, no better feeling. But when you lose, that season just comes to a thud, an end, and you've known that, well, you were part of history, but on the wrong side of it.
That's right. Looking to stay on the right side of history today for these Dallas Cowboys. They come into this one, obviously, as the favorite, the home team. They're on such a tear here at AT&T Stadium, and they're the more experienced team for sure. This Packers team, extremely inexperienced, the youngest roster in all of football. Jordan Love, starting quarterback for the Packers, making his first playoff start on the road. Hopefully, Cowboys fans are ready to make it super loud here at AT&T Stadium. But we found out just a few minutes ago, Tyler Smith is in. He is going to be active and playing and starting in this game for the Cowboys. That's huge. Same goes for Stephon Gilmore. On the other side of things, the Packers, they have active wide receiver Christian Watson and cornerback Jair Alexander, probably their best defender, certainly their best secondary piece there. So that's huge for them. But their backup running back, A.J. Dillon, is out for today's game. So there's a couple of your in and outs there that were hugely important for today's matchup. But Broaddus, as we dive into the preview, brought to you by Sleep Number, the official sleep and wellness partner of the Dallas Cowboys. I feel like this is going to be a great opportunity for Dak Prescott, this Cowboys offense, to really put some points up versus these Packers.
No, you're absolutely right about that. You know, the one thing the Packers can do is they can rush the passer. And, you know, but at home, the Cowboys have done a really nice job with their protections. On the road, that seems to be when they have a little bit more problem. But yeah, this has to be the worry of the Green Bay Packers today. The way that CeeDee Lamb's playing, the way that Brandon Cooks is playing, the way that Jake Ferguson's playing, and this offensive line. Dak Prescott, as you mentioned, has been outstanding this season. And when he gets it rolling, he could be very difficult to deal with, and the Packers very well know that.
The Packers secondary, the middle of their pass defense, is that where they seem to be most vulnerable?
They have problems at linebacker. Walker and Campbell don't cover particularly well as inside linebackers. They try and get pressure on you before you can get the ball out of there. But Walker is the best of the two linebackers as far as a blitzer goes. You'll see him rush throughout this game. He wears number 7. Jonathan Owens, the safety for the Packers, he's the one that has allowed the most touchdowns of any of the Packers secondary. He's given up 4 touchdowns this year and only 21 attempts against, or 21 completions against him. 4 of those have been touchdowns.
Wow.
So how they match up with getting somebody on Owens in coverage, and then also, though, these linebackers find ways, whether it's a screen game, the angles, the Texas routes, the inside breaking routes, tight ends, anything to get these guys to have to play coverage will be a good thing for the Cowboys today.
I love it. Hopefully a big one for Jake Ferguson, Cowboys tight end today versus these poor linebackers and safeties in coverage for the Packers. I also saw the Packers defense has allowed the worst passer rating and yards per attempt in the NFL versus slant routes.
Yeah.
So hello CeeDee Lamb, who is a monster slant runner, and it seems like those plays always work out. McCarthy loves to dial those up. So CeeDee Lamb working some slant routes versus this Packers secondary could go for some big gains today. I like the idea of that. Now, switching things over, let's look at the defense as we go inside the numbers, brought to you by Papa John's, the official pizza of the Dallas Cowboys. Better ingredients, better pizza. It is Papa John's. And the one I keep coming back to, Broaddus, for the Packers, as good as their offense has been, and Aaron Jones and the rushing attack and these young skill guys that are making plays for Jordan Love, and as good as Jordan Love has been, he's second worst in the sport when it comes to QBR throwing on the run. So getting in his face with Micah Parsons, perhaps over that center, flushing Love out of the pocket, making him throw on the run, I think is a recipe for success for the Cowboys defense.
Yeah, you're right. Maybe getting him flushed, we'll see. The tackles, Walker and Tom, are 2 very soft tackles when it comes to pass protection. They will give some ground. So if you can drive those tackles back into Love's lap, make him have to spin this thing and try and get out of that, then you can get what you want, him having to throw on the move. I feel like that Josh Myers, the center, the Cowboys have done a really nice job, Dan Quinn and the staff, of noticing when they get a center that's not very good in pass protection, to try and put Micah on him, send Micah through the middle of the defense, and then it creates that pressure right there. When he's on the outside, it takes him a little bit longer to make the rush. But when he goes through the middle of that defense, the middle of the offense right there, he gets right on those quarterbacks pretty quick. So keep an eye on Josh Myers, the center, and then Zach Tom, the tackle, and then Rashid Walker, the other tackle. Those are kind of some spots where you can maybe do some good.
And defensively for the Cowboys, Aaron Jones at the top of the priority list in terms of, hey, you gotta contain this rushing attack before you can get to worrying about pressure and love.
Yeah, the perimeter game, the perimeter runs and stuff like that. You have to be really careful playing the Packers, because when they hand the ball to Aaron Jones, his vision is such where if he sees something open front side, he'll take it. And I mean front side, that's play side. He'll take that. But if something opens up on the back side and say you get your tackle or your edge cut off, or the linebacker's late getting across, or you overcommit, he will take that ball and bounce it back to the middle and find that soft spot. So gap discipline, playing square across the line, winning off blocks, though, and getting to the spot there before he has a chance to make that cut.
Fantastic. All right, just getting started here on the official pregame show of America's team. 60 minutes to kickoff here at AT&T Stadium. Cowboys and Packers, we take you all the way up until kickoff. Let's hear from head coach Mike McCarthy for today's Coach's Corner. You're listening to the Dallas Cowboys Radio Network.
Every moment,
Company, Milwaukee, Wisconsin beer.
Under 60 minutes to kick off Cowboys-Packers. Playoff football, ladies and gentlemen, here at AT&T Stadium. Dallas, of course, 8-0 at home this season, but they've also outscored their opponents by over 20 points per game. We'll see if they can make that another notch on their belt at home this season versus the Packers. It's going to be a fun one. We'll continue to break it down, and we'll hear from Jerry Jones here in just a few minutes. But right now, it's time for today's Coach's Corner. Voice of the Cowboys, Brad Sham, standing by with Cowboys head coach Mike McCarthy.
Fellas, thanks very much. With thanks for a domed stadium in which to play with weather like this. Mike McCarthy, this is why your team got together, why you and your coaches started working in February, why your team got together in April, was to start this journey that actually begins today. In your opinion, what makes the playoffs different?
Well, what makes it different is what you have to go through to get here. I think clearly it's football, and the way you train, prepare, and the similarities of treating every game the same is imperative. But I do think there's an emotional gain, edge, identity that your team forms, and you have to go through those 17 games to get to it. And so that's where I think it makes it different. So I think that everybody that's earned this right to be in this tournament, it's the best of the regular season. So with that, the competition and the importance because of the consequences is, just makes for high quality, intense football.
Your team, just being around them during the week. I sometimes we see what we want to see and hear what we want to hear. I get the sense that as a group, something is different for them in a positive way than the last 2 years going into the first playoff game. What's your read on it?
Obviously the last 2 years, you're always in a good space, going into a great opportunity. So I don't want to, discredit, 21 and 22. But, yeah, I think it's just, the maturity of our veterans. We're a young football team, and I think the gap and the connection between the veterans and your rookies and first-year players is very strong. And with that, we live the expectation of where we want to go every single day as a Dallas Cowboy. Some teams, hedge their bets and are happy to get into the tournament, but we clearly understand where we are and the importance of it, and that's where I think that the strength of this team is. I think we did a really good job staying just on top of on the preparation, because we all made a tremendous commitment to one another for this, championship opportunity, and we will win today, and that's really has been our mindset, regardless, how it goes, because every game has an ebb and flow to it. Every game, goes up and down and left and right and so forth, and that's just the beauty of the competition in the NFL. So, but I think these guys have prepared themselves extremely well for this opportunity.
What do you like best about what your team is doing right now?
Oh, just the consistency. I think you're seeing the efficiency of how we play from snap to whistle, and you just can't get enough of that. I think the older you get as a coach, the relatively the impatience you have when things aren't done right within that. In that mind frame over and over and over and over again, and to me, it's whether you're calling plays or in a rhythm, you're snapping on defense and making your adjustments, there's a constant of that mindset in those neurons firing over and over and over again. You have to have the play to the level you want to play, and I think that's when you feel good about where your team is.
What would you like to see them do better than they've done recently?
Oh, I just think the biggest thing for us, I'm well aware of the statistics and how we rank, and I think what I'm looking for is for our team to be themselves and come out and play to above our production standards. We've been a productive football team, especially at home. This is the climate and atmosphere that we get to compete today, and it's just make sure we play our game, and they're in this game for a reason. They've earned this opportunity, and so we're looking for a great outing today in the super competitive football game.
When does momentum for the playoffs begin? An old coaching adage is streak toward the end of the year. Some Some coaches like to say December. I'm not sure you didn't get some momentum just from your last game. They have had a great last half of the season. Where do you mark momentum going into the playoffs?
I think the biggest thing is just to make sure you're on top of the quality of play, and really there is gold in the correction component of it, even when you don't maybe win a game. So I just think your quality of play and how you're able to take that into a healthy week of preparation and play the way you need to play versus the next opponent, regardless of who they are. So I do feel like we definitely have checked that box.
We have two of the hottest quarterbacks in the league today. Do you remember Jordan Love's draft year was the first year you were here? Do you remember looking at him in the draft process and any thoughts you had about him then?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I know he transferred, and I think that the arm talent is something that you always look for, and he definitely fit the loose shoulder, flexible elbow, that I've always looked for. But yeah, you can see definitely the traits that he had then and why he's a good fit for Green Bay.
And are you at all surprised or taken by the fact that they've had the success they've had the last 10 weeks with such a young receiving core? You not only had a veteran quarterback when you were there, but you had some veteran receivers. You have that now. They really don't have very much of that.
Well, I think that it serves them well, the storyline. But my experience been in, we were very young in my early years up there as far as the quarterback and receiver component. Your football team, as the year goes on, if you can stay healthy and continue working through the practice structure and obviously the experience you get in games, I mean, you're going to have a good chance of playing your best football at the end of the year. So, I mean, you look at those guys, they're 7-3 in the last 10 games, and so are we. So, I mean, so there's a lot of comparable production as a football team. So it'll be a hell of a game.
As the play caller, when you get into the playoffs, does your pulse quicken on game day a little bit more than usual?
Well, I think the biggest thing, that I have to be is, super consistent and just get into there's a rhythm between Dak and I. And, and when you hit it and you're in it, that's where you want to be. So it's just trying to stay in that rhythm and make sure he has plenty of time at the line of scrimmage.
You have to find it every week?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Every series.
Every series. All right. Have fun today. Thanks.
All right. Thank you, Brad.
Fellas, back to you.
Thank you, Brad Sham. Thank you, Coach McCarthy, getting you set for Cowboys and Packers here at AT&T Stadium. And if you are fortunate enough to be inside of the building today here at AT&T Stadium, highly recommend you get involved with the Texas Double Burger.
Oh,
Broaddus, that was special.
That was special.
Big flavor classic Texas burger, ultimate Dallas Cowboys game day wow for fans. 2 certified Angus beef patties, and it's topped with that pepper jack and cheddar. So you get the dual cheeses, the grilled onions, the garlic aioli, freshly baked brioche bun. I know the bun is hugely important to you, Broaddus. Legends Hospitality, they're in playoff form, okay? So if you pass up on the Texas Double Burger today at AT&T Stadium, well, you're doing the game day experience wrong.
Absolutely, and you're right. That bun that's the vessel right there. But those Angus patties there with the cheese, perfect combination altogether.
Yeah, it was special.
Yeah.
It really was. Now, what do you think about McCarthy going into this one, all the storylines? How's he feeling right now? The butterfly's a little bit different when it's a former opponent, or it's just, hey, it's playoffs, so the butterflies are just – they're there no matter what.
Well, I think there's a lot of important things that you have to kind of take into this game. One is – things set up very nicely for them to get this opportunity to host these games. Remember, after the Dolphins game, myself, Wolchuk, we were all talking about, okay, let's look at the NFC South and see what's going on with Tampa and New Orleans, because you kind of thought your path was that direction.
Thought you were going to be the Eagles going to Tampa tomorrow.
Exactly. You just felt like that you were probably going to be on the road to start this thing off, and then the Eagles just, played very, very poorly, and, you got some quality wins. You beat the Lions, and then you find a way to beat the Commanders last week to get to this opportunity. This is setting up really nicely for Mike McCarthy and this football team. So
yeah, the path.
And then the path that he has. But the Packers are a good football team. Packers have played well. They've got a young team. We've talked about that a bunch today. But, man, you have got to go out there and take it from them today. You've got to go out there and make sure that you do not keep them in this football game. And at home, The Cowboys do a really good job of that. They separate, they make it difficult for opponents to have to deal with them, and they need that today.
Yeah, I mean, the last time the Packers came here for a playoff game, they had the advantage with the experienced quarterback. Today, that's us with Dak Prescott. Been there, done that, versus a quarterback in Jordan Love making his first career playoff start. And the atmosphere, you can tell, it's already cranked up a little bit.
It's a little edgy right now.
I mean, we're 45 minutes to kickoff, and we already got Cowboys fans booing Packers players coming out onto the field and everything like that. So this is going to be a different environment, and I think our quarterback is much more prepared for it than Jordan Love is. That brings me extreme confidence going into this one. 45 minutes to kick off. Cowboys and Packers, the 9th all-time playoff matchup. We'll get you to kick off as quickly as possible. Let's go into the owner's box with Jerry Jones live from AT&T Stadium. Coming up next, Dallas Cowboys football will continue in a moment.
You can trust your
Here's Eric Chiofalo and Bryan Broaddus.
It's a playoff atmosphere here at AT&T Stadium. Get you set for Cowboys and Packers. We'll go into the owner's box with Christy Scales and Jerry Jones here in just a moment. But right now, we pause 10 seconds to allow stations to identify themselves along the Dallas Cowboys radio network.
Your turn it on, leave it on. Home of America's team is 105.3 The Fan.
Cholo, baby.
KRLD FM and HD1, Dallas Fort Worth.
Always live on the free Odyssey app.
40 minutes to kick off. Let's go into the owner's box with Christy Scales and Cowboys owner Jerry Jones.
Jerry, I have to start off asking you, is all right in the football universe when it's the Cowboys and Packers in the playoffs? It just seems like with the storied legacies of both teams and the history, this is the way it's supposed to be.
Well, they know how to put the pepper sauce on it and spice it up, and this is unbelievable. I have to pinch myself that we've played well enough to push it up here, and we've got our first home game here at the stadium. And when I think about what an advantage it is, home crowd, the elements, everything goes with it. I think about our good health. I'm just really excited about having here. Because we're on a radio show. It's just down here.
Glad to have you.
Packers here.
Well, we're glad to be here.
So let me ask you both then, as Mark Murphy with the Packers, and of course Jerry Jones here. When I say Cowboys-Packers playoffs, what's the first thing that pops in your head?
Well, I think of Vince Lombardi, and I think of the Ice Bowl, and this reminds me of the Ice Bowl out here today. Temperature, it looks like the
weather with us from Green Bay down here to Dallas.
Well, Jerry, I can say for everyone inside the building that we're so appreciative of the $1.2 billion indoor stadium for today, because otherwise it's minus wind chill right now.
Well, Mark, Packers, as you know how the NFL works, we all pitch in and cause these great facilities to be available for all of it. I know he'd like to have us up on the cold tundra today, but we're not. We're in the middle of a
better record than us. They deserve it. That's the way it works.
This will be the first time that Cowboy fans get to see Jordan Love in person, and of course he has just been on fire these past several games, and it's a hot young offense coming in. What should the fans expect from Jordan Love today, and where have you seen him grow the most this season?
Yeah, what's really been impressive to me, I mean, obviously it's the first time as a starter, so he's learning and he's made progress, but he's very calm. I think, he stays calm under pressure, and he's athletic enough. He can make plays, and we got the youngest team in the league, and they're all kind of, especially on offense, coming together now, but Dallas's defense is probably the best we're going to face. They're really outstanding.
Jerry, I want to ask about your defense, pass defense specifically. Stephon Gilmore had the shoulder injury last week. We know he missed a lot of practice this week. What are you expecting from Stephon today?
Well, he's physically able to do it. He'll, of course, be braced up, and that goes with when you knock a shoulder out. But we're glad to have him back out there, and pleased that he doesn't have pain, and pleased he's going to be able to play. While I'm at it, I want to talk about Mark. Well, over the years that we've been in the NFL, had very few at the ownership level that call the shots. We've had very few, if any, that have actually played the game. And of course, Mark carries that with him, and consequently, I always quit what I was doing in those meetings and listen when Mark started talking about what we need to do to help the game and be a part of it. And of course, Green Bay is everybody's role model of how to have fan support.
Mark, it's interesting because trying to get little nuggets here on the sideline before the game and talking with the coaches and the like, and everyone, you try and come up with something clever or cute, and yet I'm getting the same thing. It's like just the most basics of tackling and winning the turnover battle. Could you just speak, and when it comes to this time of the year, from a player's perspective?
Yeah, it's obviously the farther you go on, there's more pressure every game, and I think the more the players can make it it's a regular game. It's the same as all 17 we played during the regular season, and I'll make too much out of it. But when you play in a stadium like this with this kind of fan interest and obviously the media interest, it's a challenge. But now I want to say I played for the Redskins, and so I have the rivalry with the Cowboys goes way back. So it's really fun to be here and see what Jerry's done, not just with the stadium, but the Star. And this is really a role model for teams across the league. This is phenomenal.
We were in Washington last week, and Jerry, before the game, you said in this same interview at this same time slot, you said you were nervous before that game. What is your feeling right now?
In the morning, should we not do good? It's a guillotine. Everybody will have already had their physicals, and about 11 in the morning, I dismiss the team. That's how sudden it is, and that's the guillotine. You don't want to leave here with anything left in you today. You want to get it done out here today.
You're talking about injured players. I mean, there's nothing to save it for, right? Yeah.
You guys have Jair Alexander, who's available today, and then Christian Watson's back.
Yeah, both of them. Christian's been nursing a hamstring for about 6 weeks, and so he's going to try to go. And then Jair turned his ankle in a walkthrough practice on Wednesday, which is kind of a freak, but I think he'll be able to go today.
Mark, Darren Woodson was here just a minute ago, and Darren, as a person, is one of the finest we've ever had wear a uniform for the Cowboys. But when I think about what it meant to Darren, as great a player and as great an influence individually as is, to have gotten to be on Super Bowl champion teams, 3 of them, changed his life. Really did change your life. Now, that sounds pretty dramatic, but that's not so. I got to play on a national championship collegiate team. I wouldn't be here and wouldn't be as interested as I am with the Cowboys today. It'll change your life.
Now, you look across the league, there's great players that never played in the Super Bowl. And that's, when you have that opportunity, it's pretty special.
Really special to have both of you with us. Thank you so much, Mark. Thanks for joining us on the Owner's Box. Mark Murphy of the Packers, Jerry Jones of the Cowboys. As we continue counting down to kickoff, let's rejoin Brian and Eric.
Thank you, Christy. Today's Owner's Box is brought to you by Papa John's. Better ingredients, better pizza. Papa John's. Now we get to know the enemy, brought to you by Arrow Exterminators, the official pest control provider of the Dallas Cowboys. Broaddus first down efficiency for the Packers offense versus this Cowboys defense is going to be a huge, huge key to the game. Packers 4th best in the NFL in average yards gained on first down. That keeps them out of those 2nd and longs, those 3rd and longs. Staying ahead of the sticks is going to be huge for Green Bay. And if the Cowboys can bottle up Aaron Jones in particular on those early downs, force them into some uncomfortable 3rd and long situations, that is always the recipe for success for the Cowboys.
You're absolutely right about that. Early downs will be the key there. And I think the real key today will be Cowboys offensively, though. Can they keep pressure on Green Bay? Can you keep them in a point where they're constantly having to chase this game, and to the point where, if this thing turns into a shootout, you got to like Dak Prescott, just the experience.
Yes.
But, man, I'll tell you what, though, I just feel like, though, if Dallas can make Green Bay have to chase this point and get away from that running game, Matt LaFleur is a great play caller. I have a lot of respect for him as one of those young play calling coaches. He will look for matchups. But, yeah, if you're going to find a way to kind of get them not feeling comfortable having to chase this game with all the young players, and that every series puts more pressure on them, you eventually will find a way to crack them.
All right, we continue to inch closer and closer to a playoff kickoff. Cowboys and Packers here at AT&T Stadium. We're live inside the Brad Sham radio booth. Let's welcome in the man himself, Brad Sham, voice of the Cowboys. He joins us next as we continue to get you set for kickoff. You're listening to the Dallas Cowboys Radio Network. 25 minutes to kick off the 9th all-time matchup in the playoffs between the Green Bay Packers and the Dallas Cowboys. Let's get you set for kickoff with the voice of the Cowboys, Brad Sham, as we go inside the booth. Brought to you by the WinStar World Casino and Resort, the casino of the Dallas Cowboys.
You've
Brad
been
Sham.
inside the booth, though.
That's right. That's true. That's true. We are.
I mean, we're thrilled to have you, but you've been inside the. We're going to go inside the booth. You've been inside the booth.
That's a good
3
point.
hours.
We remain inside the booth.
Now we're talking.
The same booth that we've been in all afternoon long, except this time it is brought to you by the WinStar World Casino and Resort. Now, Brad, welcome to the playoffs. A familiar place, a familiar opponent. I mean, the 9th all-time playoff matchup between these teams. When you think of Packers, Cowboys, the history, what comes to mind?
Well, because I am always looking for the crack in the glass. I mean, the last thing that we saw in the playoffs is what comes to mind, which is Jared Cook on 3rd and 20, and that was ugly. I mean, if you look at it historically, without a dog in the hunt, then you think of the Ice Bowl, and you think about those games. And there were that few years in the late '60s, early '70s when the Cowboys and Packers played, and the Packers won all the time. Mm-hmm. Then you go into the '90s when the Cowboys were making their runs, and Brian was on the Packers staff, and they had Brett Favre, and it didn't matter. The Cowboys won all the time, and now the Packers have won the last 2. The Dez caught it or didn't catch it game, which, by the way, can we stop with revisionist history? There were 4 minutes left. There were 4 minutes left in the game. Aaron Rodgers was playing on one leg, and they couldn't catch him.
Right.
And so if that was a touchdown, Aaron Rodgers was still going to take them down the field and score. That was going to happen. They couldn't stop him. So the Cowboys weren't going to win the game if that was a touchdown. B, go back and look at the tape. That was a 4th down play.
Yeah.
I understand why the ball was thrown, because they've decided to play Dez single coverage.
Sure.
Cole Beasley.
That's what I was going to say.
What was it, 4th and 5
4th
or
and
something?
2.
4th and 2?
4th and 2.
Cole Beasley is running all alone in the middle of the field, about 10 yards from the line of scrimmage.
Right.
Throw it to him, and you'll eat up more time on the clock. I don't think he would have scored, but they would have. And so everybody makes the game about Dez caught it or didn't. Oh, who cares? That's not. But that's part of the lore. That's part of the legend.
Who catches it for the Cowboys today?
I think C.D. Lamb. C.D. Lamb will catch.
Is that going to be? Is that the guy? You just
again.
feel like, though. I kind of feel like that maybe this might be a game for Brandon Cooks.
Well, here's the thing, and this is going to be if they're fortunate enough to advance.
Right.
I mean, it's very clear what Dallas's path to victory is.
Yes, sir.
From this person here to that person there. J-Ron Curse said it on Monday, I think. He had a conference call with the reporters, and they said, "What gives you hope?" And he said, "Well, I know that we're good on our side of the ball, and we're going to do." But he said, "What gives me hope is 4-88."
Yeah.
Okay. Well, sooner or later, somebody's going to say, maybe we'll put like a couple of guys on 88.
Right.
So that's when Cooks and Ferguson, and maybe it's Gallup, and maybe it's Turpin, and who knows. But some of those other weapons have to come into play.
I see Turpin. I think about Lucky Whitehead at Lambeau Field right before half running a jet sweep, and that got the thing going the right way.
Yeah, I mean, I think there are some things, and see, that's a great point. Here's what these people who are going to come fill up this place today so they could not freeze to death.
Right.
What they want and expect, I believe, is that the Cowboys are going to come out, they're going to pound the ball right down their throats and keep it all day long and score every time, and they don't get that it's going to be a struggle.
Yes.
They don't get that the Cowboys may be behind at some point in the game.
Right.
They don't get that those 2 games yesterday, those were anomalies. Most NFL playoff games go to the end and they're one-score games. So, yeah, you're going to have to grind it out. You're going to have to find the thing that makes you click, the thing that gets you going. And so maybe it's Lucky Whitehead, or maybe it's Turpin, or maybe it's Hendershot. Who knows? It could be.
I like that one.
It'll be something like. Who knows? But they've just got to keep grinding and play their game, and I think that they can win.
Well, what do you see from Jordan Love? Any Aaron Rodgers elements to his game?
Well, that's unfair to Jordan Love, but what I see is a guy who has come on. No one knew this was coming at the beginning of the year. And so, you've got the 2 quarterbacks who threw the most touchdown passes in the league out here today. And Jordan Love doesn't have a C.D. Lamb. He doesn't have a Brandon Cooks. He's got all rookies and second-year receivers, tight ends and wide receivers. And he is growing right along with them and bringing them along. And he's got this, as you guys have discussed, he's got this unusual ability to throw the ball off his back foot. and he can run with the ball a little bit. He doesn't want to, but he can. So this is a good player who is going to get better, and they're going to have a real chance down the road with him. But he's got an unusual arm. He can make every throw. I mean, he's going to complete some balls.
Always a treat, Brad.
Thank you, boys.
Thanks
Stay
for the
warm.
time. Yes, sir. There he goes, voice of the Cowboys, Brad Sham, as we broadcast live from the Brad Sham radio booth inside of AT&T Stadium, getting you set for kickoff. Cowboys and Packers. Let's go on to the turf here and get Christy Scales' keys to the game, brought to you by Pollock Aurora, proud supplier of the Dallas Cowboys. Christy, this is feeling, I mean, the atmosphere, you can tell it's a little bit different up in here right now. Have you seen a bunch of the cheeseheads, or is it just Cowboys fans making all that noise?
Not as many cheeseheads as I would have anticipated. You do see some splotches of green, particularly along the visitor sideline, lower level. It is definitely an early arriving crowd. That's mainly because it's negative degrees outside with the wind chill. So everybody's in their spot. And in addition to the Cowboys calling for a whiteout, just as we've had throughout the regular season, on every one of the 93,000 seats, there's a white towel, not only with a Bank of America logo, but with the slogan for the postseason and actually for the entire 2023-24 campaign, "Seize Everything." So it's going to be crazy to start off, and I'm just wondering is if the Cowboys win the toss, and would they defer and let the Packers have the ball first and try and come out and contend with this crowd that is just going to be so loud to start the game? Or do you want to do like you did early, mid-part, and towards the latter part of the season and take the ball first, because your offense has been so hot at home behind Dak Prescott and CD Lamb, and try and build an early lead? So I think it'll be interesting to see the strategy that Mike McCarthy employs today, knowing he's going to have such a home field advantage. And as the big board, the Jerrytron, is showing some highlights from the season, you can already hear the crowd getting revved up.
Chris, this crowd is a big part of this 16-game winning streak, aren't they?
You know, it really is. I honestly, the first several years that we were here at AT&T Stadium, I didn't think that there was that great of a home field advantage. But these last few years, and, you know, hey, 16 wins in a row, I think early in the season, a lot of that had to do with the quality of opponent that was coming in. But it really made a difference. You know, think about that Detroit game there late in December, and then the Seattle game, and also the Philly game with that Sunday night crowd. And that's the thing, usually the later in the day, the more well lubricated the fans are, more time to tailgate, usually a little louder. Didn't have that with the bad weather today, but you can really feel the energy. It's definitely different. It's a higher level right now.
I love it, Christy. You're the best. Let's go get that victory.
Sounds good. Thank you, Eric. Thank you, Brian.
Thank you.
There she goes, Cowboys sideline reporter Christy Scales here on the official pregame show of America's team, getting you closer and closer to kickoff. It's prediction time now, Broaddus. I like the Cowboys at home. The better team and at home, I think, is a huge recipe for success. Dak to Lamb, Dak to Ferguson. The offense, I think, is going to be huge. Getting off to a fast start is hugely important. To the question that Christy just asked, if I'm McCarthy, if I'm winning the toss, I'm taking the ball and I'm going up 7. 31-27, Cowboy victory.
Well, you got it close. I'm going to take the Cowboys 34-24 today.
Okay, double-digit victory for the Dallas Cowboys, according to Super Bowl champion Bryan Broaddus. That'll do it for the official pregame show. Playoff football is coming up next, right here on the Dallas Cowboys Radio Network. Brad, Babe, Christy, kickoff around the corner. Dallas Cowboys football will continue in a moment.
Tom Thumb's new Drive Up